In a world where mana and world energy governed the forces of magic, the utilization of curses seemed unnecessary and uncommon. Few possessed the capability to wield such dark arts in the first place. However, as moments ticked by, Khan experienced an unsettling phenomenon. He felt an inexplicable drain on his strength, as if his very essence was being siphoned away. His once potent powers became suppressed, their usual might diminished, and even his mental faculties were affected, clouded by an unseen force. Amidst this disorienting turn of events, a sinister dark fog began to rise, engulfing the entire battlefield. Its presence cast an eerie pall over the once vibrant arena, shrouding it in an impenetrable darkness. The malevolent haze seemed to seep into every crevice, distorting perception and instilling a sense of foreboding among all who witnessed its arrival. "D Shapa Sariram, Manas tu Si Namo," chanted Hu in a dialect unknown. In the midst of the engulfing darkness and the oppressive fog, Khan's senses were assailed by a cacophony of unsettling whispers. Each voice carried an air of terror and dread, akin to a chorus of tormented spirits speaking simultaneously within his mind. "I am blinded by the impenetrable fog," Atrus lamented, his words filled with frustration and unease. "My senses have been dulled. I can no longer see clearly into the distance. My sense of smell is rendered useless, and even my hearing has been dampened as if I am slowly losing my ability to perceive sound. My very body feels weighed down, as if I cannot muster the strength to lift even a finger. And all the while, the world around us descends further into darkness." He analyzed the situation. It became evident that these afflictions were the result of the curses cast by their opponent, a manifestation of their malevolence and desire to cripple Atrus in battle. The curses had successfully ensnared both his physical and sensory abilities, leaving him vulnerable and disoriented amidst the gloom. In this crucial moment, rather than seeking assistance from Rathnar and Vildred, Khan made the resolute decision to rely on his own resourcefulness and find a solution unaided. Closing his eyes, Khan recognized that his powers as a saint were rendered ineffective in the face of the curses. It was clear that he needed to tap into a different well of strength. Activating his Waterblade Hurricane technique, Khan harnessed its power while simultaneously masking his cosmic replicas as water doppelgangers. The duplicates swiftly vanished, relocating to another area within seconds. Ordinarily, Khan possessed a vast arsenal of skills, spells, and formations at his disposal to combat such challenges. However, with the eyes of the entire empire upon him, he was constrained from utilizing his full repertoire, let alone tapping into the abilities granted by the dimensional law. Left with nothing but the oppressive fog impeding his senses and physical strength, Khan delved deep within himself for a solution. Curses were vastly different from debuff skills and spells that only temporarily hindered your movements or reduced the range and attack output of your abilities by a small margin. In contrast, curses were incredibly potent and had the power to completely seal off your ability to use specific physical traits and abilities, rendering you utterly helpless in front of the caster. The devastating effects of a curse were not limited to your physical abilities. It also had the power to penetrate your mind, clouding your thoughts and making it impossible to focus on anything other than the overwhelming feeling of despair and hopelessness. Once afflicted with a curse, your only hope was to either find a way to dispel it or wait for its effects to wear off over time. However, even the most experienced mages struggled to dispel the most powerful curses, and the process was often time-consuming and resource-intensive. The effects of a curse could be felt by the victim for days, weeks, or even months, depending on the strength and complexity of the spell. Those who were unlucky enough to be the target of a curse often found themselves living in a constant state of fear, knowing that any misstep could result in a potentially fatal consequence. It was no wonder that curses were considered one of the most terrifying forms of magic, and few mages dared to delve into this dark and dangerous territory. Even those who specialized in curses were often viewed with suspicion and fear, for their powers had the potential to cause untold destruction and chaos. In conclusion, curses were not to be taken lightly. Their effects were far-reaching and devastating, and those who were afflicted with them were left with little hope of escape. As such, it was crucial for mages to be wary of the power of curses and to use them only as a last resort, lest they unleash a force that they could not control. There was nothing but fog, and all his senses and physical strength were oppressed, so what could Khan use at this moment? The answer was simple: the soul of the enemy. Khan's hunter domain had undergone a significant evolution over the years, as he honed his sensing and tracking abilities throughout his arduous journey. One of the invaluable skills he acquired was the spiritual sense, a gift bestowed upon him by Vilgax during his time as the sovereign of the Verlassen fiefdom in the Rakos Empire. This remarkable ability granted him the power to perceive the essence of a living being's soul, enabling him to track their very existence. Ordinarily, spiritual sense seamlessly integrated with his hunter domain skill set. However, with most of his skills rendered ineffective by the curses that now plagued him, Khan found himself heavily reliant on this particular ability. With a determined resolve, Khan closed his eyes, calling upon the depths of his spiritual sense. Like a resounding sonar, a wave of ethereal soul essence emanated from him, reaching out across the expansive battlefield, spanning an impressive range of 30 kilometers. The soul essence swept over the terrain, searching for any trace of life amidst the chaos and destruction. It was as if a metaphysical current flowed through Khan's being, guiding him towards the presence of his elusive opponent. With every passing moment, he sharpened his focus, honing in on the subtlest vibrations within the realm of souls. Despite the curses that had gravely impeded his abilities, Khan's unwavering determination and his reliance on spiritual sense fueled his pursuit. The weight of the curses may have restricted his physical and magical prowess, but it had not extinguished the fiery spirit that burned within him. As the wave of soul essence expanded, the battlefield transformed into a tapestry of ethereal energy, revealing the hidden threads that connected all living beings. Khan's mind became a conduit of perception, deciphering the intricate patterns of the souls around him. This guy is very cunning. He is hiding inside a stealth formation while leaving a fake replica of himself that I would end up attacking in order to break the curses. In this situation, I would be expending my little world energy, and then he would show up to get rid of me very easily. This battle tactic is very useful to confuse an enemy and finish them off when they least expect it, spoke Khan after tracking the real body of his shaman opponent. But that's where he made a mistake. For his disguise to work perfectly and not leave any trace of world energy behind that his opponents could use to track his real location, he is completely defenseless. He evaluated the situation and formed a plan to win this match. Boom! Rumble! Crackle! The battlefield trembled after Hubazin, the shadow disciple of the Kuanpeng tribe, cast more offensive curses to one-shot Atrus in his weakened state. And right exactly then, Khan made his move. Khan, also known as Atrus, devised a battle strategy as soon as he discovered the location of Hubazin. With a determined focus, he set his sights on the illusory body created through a curse, a deceptive technique that tricks people into believing their enemy is present while the true caster remains hidden. Without hesitation, Khan soared through the sky, his movements swift and precise, reminiscent of a relentless predator on the hunt. Rather than succumbing to mindless aggression, he honed his approach, seeking to dismantle the illusion with calculated precision. Summoning his Kakara, who unleashed a tempestuous windstorm, unleashing spiral tornadoes of devastating power capable of leveling entire mountain ranges. The sheer force of nature was unleashed upon the battlefield, leaving no doubt as to the magnitude of Hu's mastery over the elements. The shaman adversary on the opposing side retaliated, conjuring a ferocious storm of yellow lightning that crackled and seared through the air, aimed directly at Atrus. Bang! Rumble! Rendered defenseless by his weakened state, the blue wolfkin warrior found himself unable to evade even a single blow from the relentless barrage of elemental attacks. The full force of the onslaught left his body charred and his flesh seared, a testament to the unrelenting devastation he had endured. With each agonizing step he took toward the enemy, his blood dripped down, painting a chilling tableau of unwavering determination and unyielding resolve. Despite the excruciating pain that racked his body, he pushed forward, undeterred by the overwhelming odds stacked against him. Why won't you fall? The shadow disciple of the Kuan Peng tribe exclaimed, his voice dripping with rage and frustration. The ferocity of his attack was enough to obliterate any ordinary being at the 5th stage of a saint's power. Yet Atrus defied all expectations, rising to his feet time and time again, undeterred in his relentless advance. Crack! With a resounding crack, another colossal lightning bolt crashed down upon the Fenrir-born warrior. The sheer force of the impact wrought havoc within a 2-kilometer radius, reducing everything in its path to ruins. The ground quivered beneath the assault, leaving behind a gaping chasm that plunged an astonishing 300 meters into the earth's depths. Sizzle! Sizzle! Atrus' figure became fully exposed, but this time, a startling revelation awaited those who beheld him. His left arm was completely severed, torn away by the relentless onslaught of the battle. Finally, Atrus found the severed arm across the charred soil and picked it up. Rustle! Rustle! As the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, a rustling sound akin to vines swaying in the wind filled the air. All eyes in the Nader Empire were fixed upon Atrus, witnesses to an astonishing sight unfolding before them. The cells of his severed arm began to realign and reconnect, like a meticulously choreographed dance of regeneration. With bated breath, the onlookers marveled as the detached arm seamlessly rejoined itself, each component finding its rightful place. A sense of awe washed over the spectators, for they bore witness to a remarkable display of vitality and restoration. The restored arm, once broken and lifeless, now appeared as if it had never been separated. Boom! A dark blue aura erupted as Atrus' haggard figure stood proudly, and in front of everyone. He completely healed, without a scratch. Back in the arena, Romulus smirked. The heavenly kings and the empress stood in utter shock, their expressions mirroring disbelief and awe. Though they too possessed exceptional regenerative abilities bestowed by their elevated ranks and bloodlines, the revelation of Atrus' seemingly effortless healing left them astounded. They grappled with the realization that, if faced with the same cursed circumstances where their minds and bodies ceased to respond to their will, they would struggle to heal, let alone survive in such dire circumstances. Unbeknownst to them, Atrus, known as Khan, possessed abilities far beyond their comprehension. His bloodline intertwined with those of the mighty god-beasts and primordial titans, particularly drawing power from the Basilisk, Fenrir, and Cthulhu. These bloodlines he absorbed long ago granted him regenerative capabilities that far surpassed anything they could fathom. Even their individual bloodlines paled in comparison to the combined potency of Atrus' own. The irony of the situation was not lost on them. A warrior of such immense regenerative capabilities was, astonishingly, not relying on the defensive attributes accompanying his bloodlines. The weakness of the shaman class became evident in this encounter. Their curses could manipulate and afflict the mind and bodies of their targets, utilizing the world around them as a conduit for their malevolent magic. However, even their potent spells fell short when it came to completely severing or subduing the innate and passive skills and abilities tied to an individual's bloodline. In the case of Khan, he had yet to tap into the immense power of his dragon bloodline. If unleashed, not a single scratch would mar his body, despite the curses that had befallen him. Furthermore, the potential for devastating strength lay dormant within him. Through activating Azura mode, Shura mode, or the Berserk God mode, Khan possessed the capability to overpower and vanquish his opponents with his bare fists alone. After getting out of the crater, Atrus kept pursuing the fake body, attacking it every chance he got while still suffering through great damage. What a shame. Although he is incredibly strong, he isn't much perceptive. If I was in his shoes, I would have realized that I'm fighting a fake by now, said the heavenly king of light, Halder. At this rate, the shadow disciple of the Kung Peng tribe will tire him out and then win without even suffering a single injury on his body, spoke the heavenly king of metal, Jero. This is why talent is hardly useful against experience, remarked heavenly king of water, Kaida. Romulus kept his cool and replied calmly. Is that why this foolish and muscle-head of a shadow disciple of mine beat your disciples to death? The last I recall, Both of them admitted their defeat after getting brutally thrashed and humiliated by Atrus, asked Romulus, with a devilish grin on his face. This? The two of the heavenly kings flared up in rage but couldn't retort because that was indeed the truth. Even the heavenly king of metal was silent because he too could have been the same as them if his shadow disciple was defeated by Atrus. Right then, the Empress thought somberly. There is something different about this child. Why do I feel a form of kinship from him and at the same time, I feel like he is my natural enemy? Back in the pocket dimension, after getting the left side of his chest almost blasted by a fire and wind tornado attack that could destroy a small village in a single shot, Atrus got up again and kept walking like a madman. The real who inside the illusion barrier was sweating profusely despite not being the one directly getting pursued by this undying maniac called Atrus Bellator. What would have happened if this battle wasn't part of a competition and a real-life deathmatch? Even with my domain and my curses, I'm still unable to get rid of him. At this rate, I will run out of my world energy within 10 minutes, and once my curses are gone, he will be even more terrifying to face. Thought the descendant of the god-beast rock. Another weakness of the shaman class became apparent in contrast to mages who could wield elemental spells and powerful magical attacks. The shaman class heavily relied on the support of the external world, but it begged the question. Why would the world be so benevolent as to assist them without reason? The law of equivalent exchange made no exceptions, and the shamans had to rely solely on their own world energy stored within their bodies to command and manipulate their surroundings. No external artifact, mana source, or otherworldly energy could aid them, as these elements were not harmoniously attuned to their own world energy. It was akin to trying to mix oil and water, a futile combination. Furthermore, the extensive consumption of world energy during their rituals and spellcasting meant that the domain and curses of the shaman class had a limited duration, lasting no longer than an hour. In addition to these limitations, who had strategically concealed himself within an illusion barrier, intentionally minimizing defensive capabilities to avoid alerting his opponent. This vulnerability highlighted the susceptibility of the shaman class to be attacked and defeated easily, particularly when their defenses were compromised. It was through these weaknesses that the true nature of the shaman class was laid bare, a delicate balance between their reliance on the world and their own inherent limitations. What who didn't know that Khan was exactly aiming for this weakness? Finally, the hour-long window passed and the fog-like domain along with the curses placed on Atrus' body shattered and vanished with glowing lights. You leave me no choice but to use my strongest attack. Do not blame me if you lost your ability to use world energy as a saint. This time, the real Hubazan emerged from the barrier and summoned a terrifying storm along with sutra symbols. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svaha Om. His voice echoed in the entire battlefield. Every symbol grew larger and covered 5 kilometers radius sky and earth. Om Mani Padme Hum. Namo Amitba. A ginormous palm made of sacred golden and divine energy appeared in the sky. Buddha's Dharma seal. Tremble. Rumble. Boom. The entire pocket dimension that spanned for 100 kilometers shook like a boat in a raging sea storm. The ground trembled and sky rumbled as a massive cloud of energy akin to a nuclear bomb attack rose and devastated the nearby 5 kilometers of space, incinerating everything within. And after the cloud of dust faded, Atrus' devastated and unconscious figure was revealed to the public. Yes, he won. Yeah. That bastard Wolfkin has lost. People across the empire cheered as if it was their own victory. The victory was not only celebrated by the common masses but also the ardent devotees of the god of nature, those who held a deep reverence for the temple of Termesset. Hubazan's resemblance to the monks and people of the temple was uncanny, leading many to perceive the defeat of Atrus Bellator as a manifestation of divine retribution enacted by their revered deity. In their eyes, it appeared as if the god himself had descended to deliver a potent and fitting punishment upon the audacious warrior who previously badmouthed many species during his previous 2 matches. The sight of this seemingly divine intervention filled them with a profound sense of awe and vindication, reinforcing their unwavering faith in the power and justice of their god. Hubazan heaved a sigh of relief and approached the unconscious body of his opponent. I feel sorry for doing this to you. I have sealed your ability to use world energy as a saint. I hope you can forgive me one day. Spoke the shadow disciple and shook his kakara, acting polite even in his victory, unlike Atrus who trampled on the pride of his opponents even after their defeat. People across the arena and the Nader Empire were swayed by this virtuous and polite shaman. But right then, I forgive you. A dreary and murderous voice resounded in the arena out of nowhere. The Atrus on the ground turned into nothing but a blob of water and seeped into the battlefield. Grasp! A firm hand suddenly grabbed Hu from behind, clenching his claw over his neck. I hope that you also forgive me. Rumble. Right then, the sky turned dark and a massive lightning bolt launched and attacked the shaman. Boom! The terrifying 100-meter-wide lightning bolt attacked instantly. After the dust settled and inside that same crater lay Hubazan, his feathers all burnt and his skin charred as the shaman was completely knocked out while looking like a roasted chicken. Atrus joined his palms and bowed as he spoke in a kind and tender tone. Namo Amitba. After Khan, also known as Atrus, emerged unexpectedly and executed a decisive finishing move on his opponent, Hubazan, the latter lay unconscious on the battlefield, unable to comprehend how he had been outsmarted. Hubazan wondered why Khan had chosen this particular approach instead of relying solely on brute strength to defeat him. Little did he know that Khan had purposely revealed his doppelgangers to the audience. While the replicas endured the onslaught of attacks, it was the real Khan who bore the true brunt of the battle. The duplicates, being merely comparable to a third-stage saint and not a genuine fifth-stage saint, would inevitably be destroyed. Thus, Khan willingly subjected himself to the punishing blows. Yet this was nothing new to him. Under the guidance of Vildred and Romulus, Khan had already experienced death countless times, over 1 million to be exact. At this stage of his training, even the most excruciating torture was a mere stroll through the park for Khan, and he had grown accustomed to the agonizing pain. That's precisely why he allowed Hubazan to wear him down. Clearly aware of the vulnerabilities of the shaman class, Khan devised a strategy to make his victory even more astonishing. Sensing the perfect moment, he swiftly swapped positions with his cosmic replica when Hubazan launched the devastating Dharma Seal attack. Seizing the opportunity when his opponent's confidence was at its peak, Khan concluded the match with remarkable finesse. Gasp! A collective gasp reverberated throughout the arena and the entire Beast Empire, leaving people utterly stunned to their very cores. Even the heavenly kings and the empress couldn't escape the grip of astonishment. Meanwhile, a proud smile adorned Romulus' face, for he had anticipated this very outcome all along. When given an illusion of a certain victory, even the most admirable warriors make the mistake of dropping their weapons. Spoke the heavenly king of fire, his voice echoing through the arena and also the entire empire through the broadcasting screens. Finally, billions of people grasped the truth behind the spectacle that unfolded before their eyes. From the initial clash to the climactic conclusion, Atrus fearlessly confronted his adversary, while the shadow disciple of the Kuan Pong tribe cunningly concealed himself within an illusion barrier. Throughout the relentless onslaught of devastating attacks, spectators believed Atrus was inevitably marching towards his own demise. And when Hubazan depleted his reserves of world energy and unleashed his most dreaded technique to bring the match to a close, the audience accepted it as the ultimate outcome. Little did they know that their assumptions couldn't have been more misguided. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. This was precisely the strategy Khan used in this entire match. Khan's strategy throughout the entire match revolved around meticulously crafting an illusion of struggle and resistance. He skillfully manipulated the situation, allowing his opponent to bring him to the brink of defeat. And just when his adversary let their guard down, confident in their assumed victory, Khan literally finished the match with a thunderbolt. The individuals who had fervently desired Khan's defeat and reveled in the anticipation of his downfall were now rendered speechless and bewildered. Their hearts sank as they struggled to come to terms with the stark reality that unfolded before them. Accepting the truth that contradicted their hopes and expectations proved to be an arduous task, leaving them in a state of disbelief. Finally, both combatants were summoned back from the pocket dimension, and a group of healers and druids ran toward the unconscious Who. Man, if this wasn't a competition, Oliver would have liked his abilities and bloodlines. Spoke Khan to himself and quietly entered his pavilion. In response to Romulus' command, Khan took his place beside his master on the throne, exuding an air of pride and confidence. Seated regally, he cast a gaze upon the onlookers, displaying an undeniable sense of self-assurance, seemingly indifferent to their very presence. Billions of people clenched their teeth, their faces contorted with venomous expressions as they perceived Atrus' cold and dismissive demeanor as a direct affront to their pride. It was a harsh reality that unfolded before their eyes, a world where the weak often played the victim, conveniently shifting blame to others, while the masses reveled in witnessing the downfall of those who had rightfully achieved their success through their own strength and abilities. The narrative of justice and chivalry had become a tool wielded by the weak to mask their animosity towards individuals of power and authority. However, Atrus, known as Khan, remained unfazed by these perceptions. He had learned not to foolishly assume that the weak and impoverished were always virtuous individuals deserving of sympathy. As Khan quietly recuperated, both physically and mentally, the next match among the remaining contenders commenced. For hours later, he stepped back into the arena, realizing that this could potentially be his final qualifying match. A victory here would secure his position as a finalist, considering his undefeated streak throughout the competition. Facing him now was Sobek Slytherin, the shadow disciple hailing from the Basilisk tribe. Draped in resplendent golden and emerald armor, the descendant of the god-beast Basilisk exuded an air of pride as he stood confidently before Atrus. His piercing green and yellow eyes radiated an unmistakable aura of danger and hostility. Sobek, with a head reminiscent of an ancient serpent species, made no effort to conceal his enmity. To him, this battle held profound significance. It was a matter of pride for his entire tribe. Atrus, being a warrior of the Fenrirborn tribe, stood as the opposing force that challenged the honor and legacy of the Basilisk tribe. Through the annals of history, the dragons and basilisks had perpetually been embroiled in conflict. However, there existed an exception to this animosity, an anomaly that prevented them from engaging in warfare. That exception was the god-beast Fenrir and his descendants, who remarkably managed to pose a threat to both species. Khan, upon learning this revelation from Romulus before the commencement of the match, found himself astounded by the truth. Among all the mighty god-beasts and even the royal dragons, Fenrir stood as a unique enigma. Not only did it possess size and physical strength comparable to its counterparts, but it also possessed a distinctive characteristic bestowed by its bloodline. This rare trait allowed the god-beast to absorb and purify the bloodlines of others, setting it apart from the rest. One of the most extraordinary abilities possessed by the god-beast Fenrir was known as the World Devourer. This awe-inspiring power allowed Fenrir to consume, engulf, and literally devour everything in its path, akin to a formidable black hole. According to ancient legends, during the immemorial era when primordial species roamed the lands of Vantria, the Fenrir of that time devoured several 100,000 kilometers of land and sea, causing a cataclysmic event of immense proportions. To halt the reshaping of the world, a coalition consisting of the First Walkers, Elder Dragons, and an Archangel had to unite forces and ultimately slay the formidable creature. The records of antiquity revealed that as a consequence of Fenrir's rampage, at least half of Vantria's topography underwent drastic changes, leading to the formation of new continents. These continents, in present times, are known as empires, each now ruled by different species. It was due to the potent abilities of Fenrir, particularly its capability to kill and absorb the abilities and bloodlines of other beings, that both dragons and basilisks harbored a deep reluctance to confront the god-beast. The Fenrir had the power to even vanquish these mighty creatures and assimilate their powers, further enhancing its own strength. Even Khan's divine ability absorption, drew inspiration from Fenrir's World Devourer ability. However, even now, Khan's power paled in comparison, only managing to reach half the magnitude of the original god-beast's immense might. In the present moment, as Khan reconciled with his current situation, he resolved to embrace the role bestowed upon him as the representative of the Fenrirborn tribe. Understanding the gravity of the upcoming battle, he decided to adapt to the circumstances and act accordingly. Sobek, exuding a grim aura, broke the silence, his voice laced with warning. "Surrender. I cannot guarantee your survival in our impending clash." With a hint of sarcasm, Atrus retorted, "How amusing. Every time when someone uttered those words to me, they ended up dying instead." Both warriors were keenly aware of the importance of not yielding an inch, be it in physical combat or the psychological warfare that unfolded between them. They refused to grant their opponent any advantage, striving to maintain an equal footing on all fronts. Despite Khan not being a direct member of the Fenrirborn tribe and possessing the bloodline of the god-beast Fenrir solely through Skoll and Hati, the mythical rank descendants of the divine beings, he found himself inescapably burdened with the responsibility that came with his fake identity. The significance of his role extended far beyond his personal identity. It encompassed the legacy and heritage of the Fenrirborn tribe, tying him to a lineage that demanded his participation and representation. The weight of this lineage and the history it carried rested heavily on his shoulders, leaving him with no choice but to bear the responsibility and fulfill his role with utmost determination. And thus began the Battle of True Descendants. The impending clash between Sobek Slytherin and Atrus Bellator, representing the Basilisk tribe and Fenrirborn tribe respectively, held an unparalleled allure, surpassing the excitement generated by the previous matches. Sobek wielded two Khopesh swords, curved sickle-like blades imbued with formidable slashing power. As a true descendant of the Basilisk tribe, he possessed the skills of an earth elemental skilled swordsman, complemented by his bloodline's affinity for illusion techniques. This combination made him a formidable adversary, capable of deceiving and disorienting his opponents. While Khan had showcased his attack strength in previous matches, the full extent of his abilities remained shrouded in mystery. Illusion-based powers, such as those possessed by Sobek, were not easily graded or measured unless one experienced them firsthand. Thus, the true scope of Atrus' prowess in countering illusions was yet to be unveiled, adding an element of suspense and uncertainty to the impending battle. Ding! Ding! Without delay, the combatants were transported to a pocket dimension, marking the beginning of their intense confrontation. They found themselves in a vast and scorching world, consumed by relentless sandstorms and barren deserts. Towering pyramids, stretching for kilometers in width, dominated the landscape, casting elongated shadows across the arid expanse. This unforgiving realm offered no respite, as the searing heat intensified with each passing moment. Not a single drop of water could be found in this parched domain, setting the stage for their battle in a harsh, arid wasteland. Begin! The moment the announcer declared, both combatants vanished from the spot. At first glance, the battlefield seemed to pose a disadvantage for Atrus. However, his complete affinity to all elements rendered him impervious to the adverse conditions. Swoosh! Swiftly, emerging from within the swirling sandstorm, the green-skinned swordsman launched his assault upon the blue-clad brawler Saint, capitalizing on the veil of sand as his camouflage. Clang! As the swords and gauntlets clashed, an eruption of sparks ensued, illuminating the battlefield. The sheer force of their collision sent reverberations across a radius of 500 meters, signifying the intensity of their evenly matched strength. True to his previous approach, Khan had no intention of concealing his true power. Acknowledging the significance of the match, he swiftly retaliated with a relentless barrage of devastating blows, utilizing a combination of kicks and punches aimed precisely at Sobek's vulnerable points. Confronted with the stark reality that Atrus surpassed him in physical strength, despite Sobek's formidable bloodline granting him amplified power compared to others of the same rank, the Shadow Disciple adapted swiftly to the situation. Employing the surrounding sandstorms and the unique terrain to his advantage, Sobek tactically retreated, cautiously maneuvering to create distance between himself and his relentless opponent. Domain of Illusion, spoke Sobek and let out a burst of a green pillar of world energy. In that crucial moment, Sobek unleashed his domain, enveloping the surrounding 25 kilometers of space with a dense mist and fog. The combination of his domain and the prevailing sandstorms amplified the dreary atmosphere, creating an even more challenging environment for Atrus to navigate. Contrary to common expectations, Sobek's domain served a purpose beyond mere obscurity and disorientation. Careful, boy. He has infused poison into this mist. Normally, even a fifth-stage saint would fail to detect it given the negligible quantity, but as time goes on, the target won't even know how they suddenly stopped functioning properly. Warned Rathnar. That gives me another idea, replied Khan and let out a mischievous smirk. The opponent was generous enough to use poison via his domain, so Khan also planned to reward those efforts and schemes by the opponent. 1 hour later, undeterred by the treacherous conditions of Sobek's domain, the fierce battle raged on without any significant shift in their positions. Atrus, displaying unwavering courage, maintained a dominant presence on the battlefield, launching relentless attacks against his adversary. Meanwhile, Sobek remained vigilant, constantly seeking opportunities to deliver a decisive and lethal strike that would bring an end to the battle in a single stroke. But right then, "Arg!" groaned Atrus, and suddenly his figure slumped as if losing control over his body. "Finally, my poison is showing its effect. I was worried for nothing, thinking that it failed," thought Sobek, and then his green eyes turned purple. Thump! Thump! In a sudden and dramatic turn of events, the once illuminated battlefield was engulfed by an all-encompassing darkness, transforming the pocket dimension into an abyss of blackness. The previously visible surroundings vanished, leaving only an impenetrable void in its wake. The palpable sense of foreboding that emanated from this eerie darkness sent a shiver down the spines of those witnessing the battle. "Come, pay for your sins." A grim and terrifying voice resounded and right in front of Atrus. A ginormous being sizing up to 2 kilometers in height alone appeared. Sobek now revealed himself as a god who carried the divine judgment on others in this dark domain. As Atrus found himself on the receiving end of Sobek's divine judgment, he appeared visibly affected, his movements seemingly restricted and his demeanor weakened. This display of vulnerability led spectators across the empire to believe that he had succumbed to the poison's influence to such a degree that he was rendered immobile. Swing! Swing! The colossal Kopesh blades swung through the air with menacing intent, aimed at Atrus as if they were instruments of divine retribution, poised to condemn him for any transgressions he may have committed. Yet, in truth, the seemingly gigantic Sobek was actually his normal self, who charged fiercely at Atrus, intent on delivering a fatal strike aimed directly at his neck. Slash! A fierce and precise slash was made as Sobek appeared right in front of the blue Fenrirborn. Shing! However, before his swords hit, Atrus grabbed the blades of the swords with his gauntlets out of nowhere. "Is that it? I was expecting more." A somber yet ghastly voice echoed as the target of this attack revealed an evil grin. Crumble! Crumble! With calculated precision, the illusory dark world shattered into fragments, dispelling the deceptive atmosphere that had enveloped the battlefield. This turn of events came as no surprise to Khan, as he had anticipated this moment and carefully orchestrated it to his advantage. Having attained legendary rank poison immunity, Khan remained unaffected by any form of toxic substances, rendering them futile against him. This immunity provided him with a significant advantage, allowing him to counter Sobek's attempts to incapacitate him. In a sudden shift, Khan's eyes flickered with a yellow hue, a sign of his heightened focus and unleashed power. This unexpected turn caught Sobek off guard, momentarily disrupting his concentration and leaving him vulnerable to Khan's impending retaliation. Rumble! Rumble! In a breathtaking instant, the entire battlefield underwent a dramatic transformation. The once scorching desert and towering pyramids dissolved into nothingness, giving way to the vast expanse of outer space. Gleaming stars dotted the void, while colossal meteorites hurtled through the cosmic backdrop, their destructive potential evident. Sobek, who had exuded unwavering confidence until now, found himself trembling with fear for the first time. The drastic shift in the environment had caught him off guard, leaving him disoriented and uncertain of how to navigate this newfound astral battleground. In a pivotal moment of the Elysium tribal tourney battle, Khan, now utilizing the formidable lucid reality skill, unleashed a display of his true power. Sobek, despite being a descendant with a limited basilisk bloodline, stood as no match for the might and capabilities that Khan possessed. Soon, a yellow mist spread on the battlefield as Khan used the neurotoxin venom. As the yellow mist spread across the transformed battlefield, Khan tapped into his neurotoxin venom ability. This skill, inherited from Jormungandr, a legendary rank direct descendant of Basilisk with a higher degree of bloodline purity, held a potency far surpassing anything Sobek could conjure. The combined effects of Khan's lucid reality and the intensified illusion capabilities made possible by his superior bloodline lineage left Sobek helpless in comparison. Bang! Bang! As the thousands of meteorites propelled forward with tremendous force, their impact with Sobek was nothing short of devastating. Each collision launched the swordsman through the air, causing him to be propelled several kilometers away with each successive hit. However, to everyone's astonishment, the meteorites swiftly changed their trajectory, converging around Sobek in a protective formation. They clustered around him, forming an impenetrable barrier that shielded him from any incoming attacks, including the slightest ray of light. The once bright battlefield was now enveloped in an eerie darkness, casting a shroud of uncertainty and apprehension over the spectators who watched in awe and anticipation of the battle's outcome. Crack! Crunch! The meteorites started terraforming and created a tomb around Sobek. Shrink! As the tomb continued to shrink around Sobek, the air grew thin, depriving him of the ability to draw a breath. Every movement became increasingly restricted, leaving him immobilized and powerless within the tightening confines. In a climactic turn of events, the shrinking tomb metamorphosed into a colossal pyramid, stretching across a vast expanse of 10 kilometers. Sobek found himself entombed within this imposing structure, encased by the weight and magnitude of the surrounding meteorites. Khan had ingeniously devised a fate reminiscent of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh's burial, immortalizing his opponent in a cosmic tomb. While Sobek's basilisk heritage granted him resilience against the neurotoxin venom, the effects would render him incapacitated for several hours. During this time, he would be confined to stillness, unable to move or engage in combat. Atrus then grabbed both Khopesh, previously aimed at his neck, and tightened them around Sobek's neck instead. "Admit defeat or I will pull them. Don't blame me for burying you here." His terrifying and nerve-wracking commandment resounded. Sobek's mind was consumed by fear as he grappled with the grim reality unfolding before him. It wasn't solely Atrus' superior strength that caused his terror to surge. Rather, it was the realization that his opponent wielded the same venomous and illusionary techniques, only with greater mastery. Decades of honing these skills had bestowed upon Atrus a level of proficiency that Sobek could only dream of attaining. The sheer helplessness of his current situation gnawed at Sobek's consciousness. His inability to breathe or move under the weight of the tomb left him at the mercy of Atrus. With a mere thought, his life could be extinguished. The overwhelming vulnerability that engulfed him intensified his fear, amplifying the knowledge that his fate rested solely in the hands of his adversary. Sobek's mind raced, desperately seeking an escape from this nightmarish predicament. But every attempt to resist, every flicker of hope, was swiftly crushed by the relentless grip of the tomb. He could only bear witness to the magnitude of Atrus' power and the consequences of underestimating his opponent's abilities. In the end, with great effort and mustering all his strength, Sobek's pitiful voice echoed in the arena. "I concede." Under the dim moonlight, Sobek found himself standing before the formidable figure of Empress Kali Adesisha, the epitome of power and authority in the Nader Empire. Her presence commanded respect, and her piercing gaze seemed to penetrate deep into Sobek's very soul. The meeting took place in her temporary living accommodations, a place where the weight of her responsibilities and the aura of her rulership were palpable. Sobek, still reeling from his defeat at the hands of Atrus, couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation as he awaited the Empress's words. "You asked for me, Your Majesty?" he queried in a subservient tone as he knelt in front of the Empress. Swoom! The entire hall was instantly covered by a purple aura and isolated itself from the outside world. As the purple aura enveloped the hall, it served as a testament to the Empress's immense strength and authority. The isolation from the outside world intensified the gravity of the situation, creating an atmosphere of absolute dominance. Boom! In that moment, Empress Kali Adisisha's killing intent permeated the air, suffocating Sobek and causing him to instinctively bow before her overwhelming power. The sheer force of her presence rendered him powerless and filled him with a deep sense of fear. Give me a reason why I should keep you alive. The intensely terrifying pressure cracked all bones in Sobek's body as if he was put in a grinder. Sobek, trembling on the ground, could feel the weight of the Empress's gaze bearing down on him. He understood that he stood before a force capable of ending his life with a mere thought. The intensity of her killing intent pressed upon him, leaving him feeling vulnerable and insignificant in comparison. Thadam, you have brought immense disgrace upon our tribe, consisting of 35 million individuals spanning the vast empire, with your defeat at the hands of a Fenrirborn. Not a single tear shall be shed if I were to end your life this very moment. Instead, our people would express their gratitude towards me for eliminating the stain of shame that you have become. Her chilling voice reverberated through the hall, leaving Sobek feeling as though the weight of a mountain was crushing him against the floor. As he lay prostrate on the ground, Sobek could only hope for mercy from the Empress, knowing that his fate rested solely in her hands. The experience left an indelible mark on his psyche, serving as a constant reminder of the consequences of failure and the unforgiving nature of those who held absolute power. Step, step. Right then, a familiar figure entered the room, swiftly dropping to both knees and bowing his head to the ground, his voice filled with urgency. Your Majesty, I have been by your side for over half of my life, even during the days when you were merely an official disciple of your clan and I was but a humble figure in my own. Throughout these 2 centuries of unwavering loyalty, I have never dared to ask anything of you, expressed the imperial advisor. But now, for the first time, I implore you, please, I beg for your mercy upon my nephew. Such was the bond between Zyatson Slytherin and Sobek Slytherin, a connection forged through blood and family. On the opposing side, Kali's face displayed an expression of exasperation as Zyatson interfered, with her struggle to contain the anger that was aimed towards Sobek. In addition to her role as Empress, Kali held the unofficial position of tribe leader. The Adisisha clan held the distinction of being the most formidable clan within the tribe, and Sobek happened to be the nephew of her trusted advisor, Zyatson. Both individuals belonged to the prestigious Slytherin clan, the second most influential lineage within the Basilisk tribe. Advisor Zyatson, please understand that this matter is far from being as straightforward as it may appear. The Empress responded, her voice tinged with a sense of gravity. The last instance of a shadow disciple from the Basilisk tribe losing to a shadow disciple from the Fenrirbone tribe in the history of the tribal tourney took place exactly 80 years ago. It coincided precisely with the year when Romulus Lycaeus, the current leader of the Fenrirborn tribe, made his inaugural public appearance within our empire. It was during that very tournament that he emerged as the shadow disciple representing his tribe. She disclosed, shedding light on a significant incident from the past. And now, history has repeated itself with his very own shadow disciple. Kali remarked, her tone laced with coldness. Can you not comprehend the dire political implications of this outcome? She inquired sharply, her fury barely contained. Despite the Empress's anger, the imperial advisor persisted in pleading for mercy, fully aware of Kali's reputation for ruthlessness and unforgiving nature towards those who failed in their missions or brought shame upon the tribe. After allowing a dozen minutes to pass, during which the Empress composed herself, she let out a deep sigh and addressed Sobek in a commanding tone. What transpired? How could you possibly lose to an opponent of his caliber? She demanded, her voice carrying authority. In response to her straightforward question, Sobek summoned the courage to rise from his prostrate position, as the Empress lessened the weight of her presence. Fear evident in his voice, he replied without hesitation. Your Majesty, he is far from ordinary. In fact, I dare say he might not even be a true Fenrirborn. He uttered, his words tinged with a mix of trepidation and conviction. The Empress raised her left eyebrow, seemingly surprised. "Why do you say so?" she queried. "Because I could feel that he was using the abilities of our bloodline, including that illusion that's only natural for our tribe's powerful people with higher bloodline purity. And he wasn't even affected by my poison, which is capable of killing even a 5th-stage saint within an hour." Sobek explained his reasoning. Empress was slightly taken aback and then revealed a curious expression. "So my hunch was right when I felt a sense of kinship with him back when I went to help Maximus and when I saw him fight in the tourney arena," he proclaimed, revealing her pre-existing suspicion about Atrus. "He is hiding his origin very well. Let's wait until the finale." She spoke in a jarring and malicious tone, revealing her future plans for Atrus. "After that, I will personally act and interrogate him myself." Simultaneously, in a secluded villa elsewhere, a private conversation unfolded. It served as the present dwelling for Jero, the heavenly king of metal. Standing before him was a towering figure, reaching a height of 3 meters. This individual bore a striking resemblance in physical attributes, appearance, and bloodline to Jero himself. "The last match will end with either your or his death," he declared, stressing the gravity of the situation. "Do not underestimate him. We believed Sobek would be your biggest adversary in this tourney, but even he was defeated. And the terrifying fact is that despite being a Fenrirborn, he too can use illusion techniques and doppelgangers," spoke the heavenly king with a grim countenance. "And even now, I feel as if this Atrus Bellator hasn't revealed his full strength and abilities. You cannot make the same mistakes as others and undermine him. Who knows what kind of unique abilities and powers he is hiding?" He spoke in a stern voice. "You were famous even before I declared you as the Shadow Disciple. But we knew nothing about Atrus Bellator as if he was born yesterday. So I hope you be cautious to win without letting him control the flow of battle and bring great glory to our tribe," spoke Jero. The other being in front of him was none other than the finalist who would face Atrus in a deathmatch tomorrow. "My Shadow Disciple, that Fenrirborn has now become despised by all the descendants of the god-beast by who," Jero articulated, his eyes filled with anticipation. "If you eliminate him and emerge victorious in the tournament, not only will everyone extol your immense strength, but they will also acclaim you as the warrior who avenged the pride and heritage of over 1 billion people. Furthermore, this triumph will clear the path for you to assume the mantle of the next tribe leader, facing no opposition whatsoever. And who knows, one day you may even ascend to the rank of heavenly king after I step down," he concluded, his gaze expectant. "The result of this match is greatly crucial to the future of our tribe, and your reputation in the long run." To those words, the other finalist replied in a confident yet prideful tone. "His death by my hands has already been decided by our god." In the Aurelius city's main fortress, Romulus also summoned Atrus to the council hall and spoke in private with a grave expression. "The last battle won't be easy, and even if you win, the victory won't be without consequences," said the heavenly king of fire. "Why?" asked Atrus. "Because your next opponent is not only a Shadow Disciple," said Romulus as if having a headache because of the upcoming match, and with a sigh, revealed the reason for his worries. "He is also the youngest son of the heavenly king of metal." The following day arrived, and the entire Beast Empire was swept up in a jubilant atmosphere of celebration. The streets buzzed with excitement as people indulged in the thrill of making illegal bets, willing to risk everything they owned on the victory of either of the mighty warriors. The stakes were high, and individuals gambled their very futures on the outcome of this monumental clash. This occasion held such significance that it felt like a national holiday, with hardly anyone engaging in their usual work routines. Only those involved in the food and entertainment sectors remained active, aware that this grand event presented a profitable season for them. They prepared delectable dishes and captivating performances, catering to the masses immersed in this fervent spectacle. Regardless of age, whether they were young children or the elderly, and irrespective of their species and race, everyone eagerly awaited this monumental match. The anticipation reverberated through the air, uniting the diverse populace of the Beast Empire in their shared excitement. The hopes and dreams of countless individuals were intertwined with the outcome of this clash of titans. Behind the scenes, the arena of politics was in full swing, as influential figures engaged in shrewd maneuverings. Promises were made and alliances forged among the top echelons of the empire, with each faction vying for supremacy and using this event as a platform to further their own agendas. The stakes extended far beyond the physical prowess of the warriors, as power dynamics and intricate webs of influence played out in the shadows. As the day progressed, the atmosphere grew even more charged, and the crowds swelled, creating a sea of eager faces. The entire city pulsated with anticipation, the energy electrifying as the decisive moment drew near. The fate of the warriors would undoubtedly have far-reaching consequences, not only for the individuals pitted against each other but also for the destiny of the Beast Empire itself. In the heart of this colossal celebration, there existed a profound sense of unity and collective spirit. The clash of these extraordinary beings transcended the boundaries of personal interests and highlighted the shared aspirations and dreams of the empire's inhabitants. The outcome of this battle held the potential to shape the course of history, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all those who bore witness to it. As the final preparations were made and the stage set for the epic confrontation, the air crackled with anticipation. The empire stood on the precipice of a momentous event, where the power struggles, dreams, and desires of an entire realm converged in a single arena. The next chapter of the Beast Empire's legacy and the strongest shadow disciple of this generation was about to unfold, and the world held its breath, eager to witness the outcome of this grand spectacle. However, Khan found himself with little time to spare, as he delegated the responsibility of dealing with these peripheral matters to Romulus. After all, Khan had the weightiest role to play as the representative of the esteemed Fenrirborn tribe, and his focus had to be undivided. This upcoming confrontation was not for the faint of heart. It was to be a death match, with the victor only declared when one of the combatants breathed their last. Assuming his Atrus persona, Khan took his place in the center of the resplendent arena. Billions of eyes from all corners of the Beast Empire were fixed upon him, both within the physical confines of the arena and on the holographic screens that spanned across the vast expanse of the Nader Empire. Standing before him was his most formidable opponent yet in the Elysium Tribal Tournament. A colossal figure, towering at an imposing height of 3 meters, possessed an ebony-hued complexion that seemed to absorb all light. Arcs of crackling lightning danced across his muscular frame, emanating an aura of raw power. The intensity in his eyes betrayed his unwavering intent to kill. This formidable adversary, who had emerged victorious from every match thus far, stood as the final obstacle in Khan's path. With bated breath, the crowd awaited the revelation of the warrior's name, who possessed the strength to match Atrus blow for blow. And as the tension mounted, the name finally resounded across the arena, sending ripples of anticipation through the onlookers. Dahaka of the Black Panther tribe. The name echoed through the hearts of the spectators, stirring a mix of awe and trepidation. Dahaka, the epitome of power and ferocity, embodied the indomitable spirit of his tribe. Now he stood as the last line of defense, ready to challenge Khan in a battle that would push both warriors to their limits. The atmosphere crackled with an electric energy as the two titans locked eyes, the weight of their respective tribes' hopes resting upon their shoulders. The fate of the future powerhouses who would lead their respective tribes and contribute to the safety and growth of the Beast Empire teetered on a knife's edge, awaiting the outcome of this cataclysmic clash between Atrus and Dahaka. With a resolute gaze, Dahaka of the Black Panther tribe locked eyes with Atrus, his expression tinged with hostility. He spoke, his voice filled with grim determination, addressing his adversary without any pretense of surrender. "I won't be asking you to yield like the others. No, I eagerly anticipate ending your life with my own hands. I want you to fight with every ounce of strength you possess. Dahaka declared, his words dripping with disdain. You will pay for besmirching the descendants of the god-beast Baihu. It is your very arrogance that shall lead to your downfall. I yearn for the satisfaction of witnessing your futile struggle in your final moments. Only then will it be a victory truly worth celebrating. As Dahaka's chilling proclamation echoed through the arena, millions of people across the empire stood rooted in silence, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. The gravity of the impending battle was palpable, as spectators absorbed the gravity of the clash between these two formidable opponents. In response to Dahaka's death sentence, Atrus smirked, his voice laced with haughtiness as he delivered his retort. I hope you have bid farewell to those you hold dear. It would be a shame for them to miss the chance to share their feelings, as I will be snuffing out your life right before their eyes. This way, I won't be burdened with excessive guilt for extinguishing your story here and now. His words carried an overbearing arrogance that was expected of someone of his caliber. Atrus reveled in the tension, stoking the fire of rivalry between them. The previous night, Khan and Romulus had engaged in a brief conversation about Dahaka. They shared details of Dahaka's lineage, revealing that he was the third offspring of the heavenly king of metal, Jero. The eldest son, who surpassed the age of 150, had reached the impressive sixth stage of a saint. His accomplishments and power had earned him the esteemed title of official disciple. The second child, a female, possessed the strength of a fourth-stage saintess and held a position among the imperial advisors, showcasing her intelligence and strategic prowess. Lastly, Dahaka, the third child, emerged as a lightning elemental Beeler-class saint, much like Atrus. Despite being significantly younger than his siblings by 50 years, Dahaka had already attained the impressive level of a fifth-stage saint. His prodigious talent had garnered recognition and admiration from all corners of the empire for decades. As the stage was set for the ultimate clash between Atrus and Dahaka, the knowledge of their respective backgrounds added an extra layer of intrigue and anticipation to the forthcoming battle. However, the proceedings took an unexpected turn when the heavenly king of metal, Jero, stepped forward and declared Dahaka as the Shadow Disciple, a title bestowed seemingly out of nowhere. Confusion rippled through the populace back then as they struggled to comprehend Jero's decision. Why would he condemn his own son to the perilous fate of potential death in this unforgiving match? While the masses grappled with this revelation, the truth behind Jero's actions gradually unfolded. Those astute enough to see beyond the surface, such as the other heavenly kings and the Empress, understood the motivations at play. Dahaka, it appeared, was driven by an insatiable ambition and an inherent competitive nature. His aspirations stretched far beyond merely participating in the tribal tourney. He coveted the position of tribe leader and harbored dreams of ascending to the rank of a heavenly king in the future. In Dahaka's eyes, the tournament became a crucible through which he could showcase his untapped potential, proving his mettle to the entire empire. It was a strategic move, leveraging the grand stage of the tribal tourney to demonstrate his strength, courage, and undeniable prowess as a warrior. By emerging victorious, he aimed to etch his name in the annals of the Nader Empire's history, solidifying his claim to future leadership and securing his place among the pantheon of heavenly kings. Such circumstances had now brought Dahaka to the present situation, where he faced Atrus in the climactic finale. The weight of his ambitions, coupled with the desire to prove himself, fueled his determination to overcome the formidable opponent standing before him. It was a battle that transcended personal glory, intertwining the fate of two warriors and the destiny of an entire empire. Atrus and Dahaka found themselves transported to a pocket dimension, a surreal realm devoid of solid ground. Above them, the sky stretched endlessly, dotted with billowing clouds, while beneath them, an expanse of water extended as far as the eye could see. It was within this ethereal battleground that the destiny of both warriors would be determined, where the echoes of their clashes would reverberate through the annals of history. Begin! With the stage set, the air crackled with anticipation as the battle commenced. The atmosphere grew heavy with tension, each breath pregnant with the weight of their aspirations and the hopes of their respective tribes. And thus began the death match, the momentous clash between a true descendant of the god-beast Baihu and fake descendant of the god-beast Fenrir commenced, causing the entire Nader Empire to hold its collective breath. The battleground chosen for this extraordinary confrontation was a realm of ethereal beauty, an expanse of nothingness, with only billowing clouds above and an unending deep sea below. The absence of solid ground ensured a level playing field, enabling both combatants to showcase their skills without any inherent advantage. The choice of this unique battlefield was deliberate, taking into account the elemental affinities of the two warriors. Dahaka, the lightning elemental brawler saint, and Atrus, the water/ice elemental brawler saint, stood on equal footing. The limitless expanse of the sky and sea provided an ideal environment for them to unleash their respective powers to their fullest potential. Rumble! Rumble! The expansive sky overhead rumbled ominously as the once serene and pristine clouds transformed into a dark and dense mass, a visible manifestation of the power unleashed by Dahaka. In a bold and unprecedented move, he activated his domain from the very outset of the battle. This marked the first time Dahaka revealed the true extent of his capabilities in the Elysium tribal tourney, as none of his previous opponents had pushed him to unleash his full potential. However, facing Atrus, he recognized the need to treat this match with utmost seriousness. Both warriors were acutely aware of each other's abilities and combat techniques, having observed and analyzed one another throughout the competition. Engaging in a mere exchange of basic attacks would be a futile waste of time. They stood on equal ground, each possessing immense strength and skill, rendering conventional tactics ineffective in this pivotal encounter. With the activation of Dahaka's domain, the atmosphere crackled with an intensified energy. The domain served as an extension of his elemental prowess, augmenting his lightning-based abilities and allowing him to exert even greater control over his surroundings. The darkened clouds became charged with electrical currents, ready to unleash devastating bolts of lightning at Dahaka's command. The stage was now set for a battle that would push both combatants to their limits and beyond. Crackle! Crackle! The vast sky crackled with an awe-inspiring display of power as thousands of lightning bolts cascaded downwards, each possessing the potential to decimate an entire small village with a single strike. The raw force of nature reverberated through the arena, accompanied by the resounding roars and growls that echoed with the fury of the unleashed storm. Roar! Growl! As the bolts of blue lightning converged, they coalesced into ethereal forms, taking on the shape of feral animals. The spectators across the Nader Empire watched in astonishment as Dahaka's lightning panthers emerged within his domain. More than 5,000 monstrously large panthers materialized, each standing a towering 100 meters tall. The sheer size and ferocity of these creatures sent a shiver down the spines of those who bore witness, even from outside the confines of the pocket dimension. Through the tokens that granted the spectators a tangible experience of the combatant's strength, the onlookers could feel the immense power coursing through the lightning panthers. They realized that the release of just one of these awe-inspiring creatures would be enough to lay waste to a sizable town within a matter of minutes, reducing buildings to rubble and leaving behind only charred remnants of unfortunate victims. Yet, in his peak strength, Dahaka possessed the ability to summon and control more than 5,000 of these formidable lightning panthers. It was a testament to his mastery and control over his lightning-based domain, a demonstration of his status as a fifth-stage saint and a stark reminder of the cataclysmic power wielded by individuals of such caliber. The sight of these massive creatures served as a stark reminder to all present that those who reached the fifth stage of sainthood and beyond were no different from world calamities when they unleashed their wrath upon the helpless, non-magical populace. It underscored the precarious nature of their existence, where the line between protector and destroyer blurred, and the unleashing of their powers could bring about devastating consequences for those caught in their path. As the immense army of lightning panthers prowled within Dahaka's domain, their presence sent waves of trepidation and awe throughout the empire. The spectators held their breaths, realizing the magnitude of the battle unfolding before them. It was a display of power that left an indelible mark on their hearts and minds, a testament to the extraordinary capabilities of those who had transcended the limitations of ordinary beings who couldn't use magic. Not bad. Looks like I should also go all out from the start then, spoke Khan aka Atrus as he saw the spectacle from 10 kilometers away in the sky. Boom! A dark blue aura erupted from his body, and the massive surge of world energy emanating from his position spread in the sea below. Gurgle! Gurgle! From the depths of the seemingly endless sea below, a transformation began to take shape. Whirlpools emerged, swirling with ferocious energy, while colossal pillars of water shot upward, reaching heights of hundreds of meters. Atrus harnessed the power of his legendary skill Ocean Eddies and tapped into the depths of his abilities inherited from Cthulhu during his time in the Zivid Empire, also known as the Elven Empire. I think you should take a look at. Ocean Eddies granted the current 5th stage Saint Atrus the ability to manipulate water in all its forms within a 25-kilometer radius. With a mere thought, he could create underwater whirlpools, conjure devastating hurricanes, and manipulate water storms, all at his whim. The scope of this skill was limited only by the presence of substantial open water bodies, and in this battlefield, there was no shortage of it. Embracing his mastery over water, Atrus then unleashed his pseudo-domain, the Waterblade Hurricane. Within a radius of 25 kilometers from his position, billions of razor-sharp water blades materialized, each a mere 10 meters in length yet possessing an incredible cutting force capable of cleaving a typical house in two. The sheer magnitude of this power left the spectators in disbelief as they witnessed Atrus' incomparable control over hurricanes, whirlpools, and the lethal arsenal of water blades. The impact of Atrus' abilities resonated with the onlookers, who comprehended the devastating potential that lay within his command. If Dahaka represented a walking disaster capable of leveling cities with his lightning-based domain, Atrus embodied a force that commanded billions of water blades and unleashed hundreds of destructive hurricanes. With a flick of his will, he could drown life and structures beneath the unforgiving currents or wield his domain to carve through anything in his path. The spectators, attuned to the catastrophic implications of such power, could not help but gulp in disbelief. The mere thought of billions of water blades and the vast destructive force of the hurricanes filled them with awe and trepidation. Even on Earth, a single hurricane passing through a populated city or settlement caused billions of dollars in property destruction. Now, at this moment, Atrus had created an environment of unparalleled disaster, one that surpassed any previous devastation on a scale hundreds of times greater. The gravity of the situation sank in, leaving the spectators in awe of the immense power wielded by Atrus. Rar! Roar! As if the spectacle of hurricanes, whirlpools, and water blades wasn't enough, Atrus continued to astound the onlookers with his mastery over water. In a stunning display of power, thousands of colossal sea dragons erupted from the depths of the sea, their immense forms stretching up to 500 meters in length. These majestic creatures were crafted from scorching hot water and freezing ice, their presence commanding the battlefield with resounding roars that reverberated through the air. The ear-deafening echoes of their roars surpassed even the intensity and terror evoked by Dahaka's lightning panthers. The sheer magnitude of these massive sea dragons clashing against one another sent shivers down the spines of all who witnessed it. The mere thought of these colossal beings engaged in a battle of epic proportions was enough to evoke goosebumps in every spectator present. Even the heavenly kings and the empress, who held positions of immense power and authority, found themselves taken aback by the awe-inspiring abilities displayed by the two finalists. They couldn't help but be impressed by the raw strength and skill exhibited by Atrus and Dahaka. The entire Nader Empire, from the lowliest citizen to the highest-ranking officials, stood united in their astonishment. They marveled at the extraordinary powers on display, understanding that they were witnessing an unparalleled battle between two formidable opponents. It was a moment that etched itself into the memories of all who bore witness, forever capturing the magnitude of the strength, determination, and sheer might of these warrior elites. The battlefield had become a convergence of unimaginable forces, where the clash between lightning and water, panthers and sea dragons, created a symphony of power that resonated through the very fabric of existence. The spectators stood in awe, unable to tear their eyes away from the spectacle unfolding before them. Both of them are talents that could hardly be found in centuries. Shame that one of them must die today, said the Empress Kali Adisisha from her pavilion. The profound words of Empress Kali Adisisha echoed throughout the arena, permeating the hearts and minds of all who heard them. Her poignant observation captured the sentiment that had settled upon the entire Nader Empire. The realization that both Atrus and Dahaka possessed rare talents and abilities that appeared only once in centuries hung heavy in the air. It was a bitter truth that one of them would meet their end on this fateful day. The Empress's words carried a weight of melancholy, for she recognized the immense potential held by both warriors. They were individuals of extraordinary strength and prowess, capable of becoming the pillars that would safeguard and propel the empire into a prosperous future. The undeniable truth was that they embodied the essence of power, possessing talents that surpassed the realm of ordinary saints. The sentiments shared by the Empress resounded across the Nader Empire, reaching the ears of countless citizens. It was a solemn reminder that despite their remarkable potential and the contributions they could make, the traditions and customs of the Beast Empire dictated the outcome impartially. This law, deeply ingrained within the fabric of their society, demanded that a sacrifice be made for the sake of determining the rightful victor. The weight of this tradition, while steeped in honor and respect for strength, cast a somber shadow upon the proceedings. The Empire's citizens understood the gravity of the situation, recognizing that the outcome of this battle could dictate the course of their future. The sacrifices demanded by their tradition stood as a testament to the unwavering pursuit of strength and the indomitable spirit that defined the Beast Empire. The law of the jungle, only the strongest shall survive. From the very outset, as Atrus and Dahaka unleashed the full extent of their powers, a hushed silence descended upon the arena, captivating every spectator in the Nader Empire. The atmosphere was palpable, with the audience transfixed, not daring to make even the slightest sound, as they sought to imprint every fleeting moment of this monumental clash deep within their memories. Crackle. Lightning fury barrage. The sky crackled with an electrifying energy as Dahaka summoned forth his formidable army of colossal lightning panthers, each towering at an impressive height of 100 meters. In a breathtaking display of power, these majestic creatures unleashed a blinding assault that traversed a staggering distance of 5 kilometers within a matter of seconds. Dahaka, with his claws aglow in a shimmering, violent electricity, mirrored the luminous gaze of his lightning panthers. With unwavering determination, he launched his own simultaneous attack upon his adversary. The convergence of their combined might intensified the already electrifying atmosphere, filling the arena with an otherworldly aura of raw power and anticipation. Swoosh! Swoosh! In a breathtaking display of speed and power, the lightning-fast legion of colossal panthers, bolstered by the presence of a formidable fifth-stage saint, tore through the formidable array of millions of razor-sharp water blades and colossal 500-meter-long sea dragons. This relentless charge shattered the supposedly impregnable defenses of Atrus' domain in a mere 10 seconds. However, Atrus, ever the cunning strategist, opted not to bear the brunt of the onslaught head-on. Instead, he swiftly conjured multiple hurricanes, their swirling vortexes unleashed in a torrential display of elemental fury. In addition, he summoned billions of razor-edged water blades, forming a formidable barrier against the encroaching army. In a clash of titanic proportions, the gargantuan sea dragons emerged as Atrus' greatest weapons of retaliation. These massive beasts, their immense size matched only by their ferocity, surged forward to meet the lightning panthers head-on, their colossal frames colliding in a cataclysmic collision of raw power and primal might. The resulting clash shook the very foundations of the arena, an awe-inspiring spectacle that left spectators breathless with anticipation. Ha! Look at this. He's just for show. See how strong Lord Dahaka's lightning panthers are. They easily broke past through those dragons and typhoons in mere seconds. This Fenrirborn is dead for sure, spoke a saint member of the Black Panther tribe loudly, revealing his disdain as he berated Atrus openly. However, his bootlicking comment wasn't received well because the colossal sea dragons, crafted from a combination of ice and intensely boiling water, joined the fray. They fulfilled their intended very next second in the pocket dimension. Bang! As the colossal sea dragons, crafted from a combination of ice and intensely boiling water, joined the fray, they fulfilled their intended purpose with devastating effect. Despite suffering significant losses in the face of the relentless assault, these formidable creatures managed to exact a toll of mutual destruction. Among the charging legion of lightning panthers, numbering in the thousands, at least 300 were swiftly cleaved apart and dissipated into nothingness even before Dahaka closed in on Atrus. Boom! The resounding echoes of thunderous clashes reverberated throughout the battlefield, as the collision between these ethereal beings forged from lightning and water/ice sent powerful tremors across the expansive sky and vast sea. The sheer force of their clash created an awe-inspiring display of elemental might. Among the onlookers, the saint hailing from the esteemed Black Panther tribe felt a sinking sensation of dejection wash over him. Instant regret flooded his thoughts, feeling embarrassed for the ill-fated remark he had made about Atrus in the heat of the moment. Why? In the grand scheme of things, the lightning panthers and sea dragons were mere manifestations of the boundless world energy assimilated with the unique elemental affinities of Dahaka and Atrus, respectively. The abundance of world energy reserves and the level of mastery in controlling them served as clear indicators of one's talent and prowess as both a saint and a warrior. In this particular scenario, Atrus stood out with his overwhelming advantage, commanding a staggering force of over 20,000 sea dragons, with many still emerging from the depths of the sea. On the other hand, Dahaka's capabilities allowed him to create a comparatively modest army of 5,000 lightning panthers, which proved to be significantly outmatched. Despite the lightning panthers holding an elemental advantage over the water/ice-based sea dragons, the clash resulted in the destruction of more than 300 of Dahaka's creations. This fact held a profound meaning. It showcased the extraordinary strength and resilience of each sea dragon, as it took only 2 of them to overcome and vanquish a single lightning panther. Simple arithmetic reveals that Atrus would require a mere 10,000 sea dragons to annihilate the enemy's 5,000, leaving him with an ample reserve of 10,000 still at his disposal. This stark numerical disparity further emphasizes Atrus' unparalleled proficiency and control over his element and skills. Despite sharing the same rank as Dahaka, Atrus unequivocally demonstrated his superior command of world energy. The culmination of his mastery was evident in the typhoons and billions of water blades that complemented his awe-inspiring abilities. This initial clash, replete with its thunderous impact and astonishing displays of power, served as a resounding testament to Atrus' unmatched control over world energy and his exceptional talent. It spoke volumes about his unassailable dominance as a saint and warrior in the face of formidable opposition. Unbeknownst to the spectators and even some of the combatants Atrus faced previously in their matches, Khan had been deliberately utilizing a mere 50% of his vast reserves of world energy at that very moment. Unlike Dahaka, who had already unveiled his full power, Khan had not even tapped into his peak capabilities, keeping them shrouded in secrecy. Moreover, Khan possessed a unique advantage that set him apart from his adversaries: the boundless supply of world energy known as Rathnar's core. This limitless source meant that he would never exhaust his reserves of world energy, granting him an unparalleled advantage in the battle. To those observing from the sidelines, it might appear as though the match was uneven, with Khan holding an unfair advantage. However, true warriors understood the deeper truth, that every tool and weapon at one's disposal in a battle was an integral part of their strength. It was the culmination of their skills, strategies, and access to resources that defined their true prowess as a warrior. Swoosh! As Dahaka transformed into a bolt of black lightning, closing the distance in a mere microsecond, his aim was set on Atrus' heart, his sharp claws poised for a devastating strike. However, grab! In a stunning display of reflexes, Atrus swiftly intercepted Dahaka's claw, snatching it from its trajectory before it even made contact with his skin. With a look of disdain in his eyes, he locked his gaze onto Dahaka's. "You dare to humiliate me by not even wielding a legendary rank gauntlet as your weapon." Atrus spoke in a grim voice, his tone filled with an undercurrent of anger and contempt. Dahaka, seemingly unfazed by Atreus' display of power, responded in a condescending tone, his figure appearing a few hundred meters away from the initial encounter. "I have no need for a mere weapon to triumph over the likes of you," Dahaka retorted, his voice dripping with superiority and arrogance. Unfazed by Dahaka's words, Atreus maintained his serious countenance, his voice growing even grimmer as he prepared to share a crucial piece of information that would undoubtedly alter the course of their battle. "Is that so? Then let me enlighten you before things take a turn for the worse," Atreus declared, his somber tone and serious demeanor casting a solemn atmosphere over their surroundings. "My skills are not made for some fancy competition. My skills are honed to kill." His tyrannical voice resounded, sending shivers to the audience across the Beast Empire. "So anyone who wants to compete with me should pay with his or her life should they choose to come unprepared or look down upon me," he openly declared with no fear or hesitation. "I also do not need anyone's respect. I'd rather have people fear me." His angered expression revealed his killing intent as Atreus increased his aura. His expression contorted with rage, revealing the unmistakable aura of a true killer. As the intensity of his aura grew, the surrounding atmosphere became charged with an overwhelming presence, further emphasizing his deadly intent. Boom! In a stunning turn of events, Atreus, driven by his unyielding determination, unleashed the power of the war dominance blessing. The arena was enveloped in an unprecedented surge of energy as his aura surpassed all expectations, surpassing even the assumed strength of a fifth-stage saint. Everyone, including the heavenly kings themselves, were caught off guard, their expressions filled with a mixture of awe and astonishment. Dahaka, on the receiving end of Atreus' overwhelming power, was overcome with a profound sense of dread and an undeniable feeling of impending doom. Even his very body seemed to freeze with sheer terror, his confidence in his own strength for the first time wavering. He questioned his own judgment in choosing not to bring his own weapons for this momentous deathmatch. With a malevolent voice that echoed through the arena, Atreus coldly addressed his opponent and those who dared question his strength. His words dripped with a sinister intent, designed to strike fear into the hearts of all who listened. "Kill one formidable enemy, and the rest will think twice before foolishly displaying their meager skills and questioning your true strength," Atreus declared, his words laced with a twisted sense of satisfaction. He had grown tired of the challenges and doubts cast upon his abilities. "So from now, I won't give you the chance to die with the honor of a warrior. From now," he revealed his unscrupulous intentions to the masses. "I'm going to make an example out of you." In the midst of the Elysium tribal tourney, Khan, fighting under his Atreus persona, found himself seething with an unprecedented fury. Never before had he been so thoroughly infuriated by an opponent's arrogance and disregard for his worth as a warrior, particularly in a high-stakes deathmatch. The fact that Dahaka had entered the battle ill-prepared, failing to bring his best gear and underestimating Khan, served as a blatant sign of disrespect. It was a direct affront to his skill and abilities, disregarding the countless hours he had devoted to training and self-improvement over the past 11 months. Throughout that time, Khan had dedicated himself relentlessly, forsaking even the most basic needs of sustenance, pushing himself to the limits of his physical and mental endurance. He had honed his abilities, aiming to become a force to be reckoned with, all in preparation for moments like this. However, due to the restrictions of the previous matches, where killing was prohibited, Khan had not yet revealed the true extent of his merciless nature to anyone. He possessed the capabilities to dispatch his opponents with ease, yet he had chosen restraint. Instead, he had fought only with an ice elemental brawler-class warrior, adhering to his new identity within the Empire. But now, faced with Dahaka's blatant undermining, it felt like a personal slap in the face. All the sacrifices Khan had made, enduring countless deaths and excruciating pain, just to master his skills, felt disrespected and belittled. This insult, inflicted by an opponent who failed to understand the depths of his journey, pierced him deeply. Of all the encounters since his arrival in Vantria, this was by far the greatest insult Khan had received. The present incarnation of Khan, embodying the persona of Atrus, was not a mere product of his divine abilities or fortuitous circumstances. He had earned his reputation as a true warrior through unwavering dedication and relentless effort. With a voice filled with wrath and determination, Atrus openly declared his intent to make an example out of Dahaka. His words carried a weight that resonated with the spectators, leaving no doubt that he would exact devastating retribution for this unforgettable transgression. Atrus had endured countless trials and tribulations, facing death in its most harrowing forms to refine his skills and forge an indomitable spirit. His journey had molded him into a warrior who would not tolerate disrespect or belittlement. Dahaka's underestimation of him, fueled by arrogance and a disregard for his true power, had ignited a flame of wrath within Atrus that could not be extinguished. Boom! The battlefield was engulfed in a swirling, dark blue aura that erupted ceaselessly, a visual manifestation of the immense power surging through Khan's body. With the activation of war dominance, the strength of his aura increased fivefold, leaving even the formidable Dahaka feeling helpless and insignificant. Dahaka's body seemed to betray him, his movements faltering, as the overwhelming killing intent exuded by Atrus shook his very soul. A sense of dread enveloped him, as if he stood on the precipice of the underworld itself. This aura, it's comparable to at least a beginner 6th-stage saint no matter how I look at it. Yet he is definitely only an intermediate 5th-stage saint. And it feels like this is barely half of his strength. Spoke the heavenly king of light, Halder. The aura emanating from Atrus surpassed the expectations of even a beginner 6th-stage saint. Yet, by all accounts, Atrus was only an intermediate 5th-stage saint. Halder couldn't fathom how such immense power could be contained within him, and he sensed that Atrus was only utilizing a fraction of his true strength. The realization left Halder and the other heavenly kings awestruck. They had witnessed countless battles and faced formidable opponents, but the might radiating from Atrus surpassed their comprehension. It was a testament to the depths of his power and his unrivaled prowess as a warrior. Especially the heavenly king of metal, Jero, who was also the father of Dahaka. This Atrus, exactly who is he? Murmured the empress to herself, a glint of curiosity in her eyes. In the secluded pocket dimension, Atrus's wrathful gaze carried the weight of a final judgment. The veneer of concealment that once shrouded his true power had been cast aside, no longer relevant in the face of his overwhelming strength. The wrathful gaze by Atrus seemed more of a declaration of final judgment as the blue wolfkin no longer cared to hide his strength. Come here. Let me teach you the basic courtesy of a warrior. Spoke Atrus, and a massive wolf claw made of those water blades formed in a mere moment, instantly captured the staggered Dahaka. With an authoritative command, Atrus directed his vast legion of 19,400 remaining sea dragons, along with hundreds of raging typhoons and billions of razor-sharp water blades, to surge forward as a unified force. There was no room for escape. Not even the open sky above offered a reprieve for the army of lightning panthers. Boom! Bang! Rumble! As the clash intensified, the very fabric of their battlefield quaked under the sheer magnitude of their powers. The earth trembled, and the vast expanse of sky and sea seemed to shudder as if bearing witness to the impending cataclysm that unfolded before them. In the face of this unfathomable onslaught from all directions, the might of Khan's powers proved devastating. The lightning panthers, once formidable creatures under Dahaka's command, were decimated by the relentless assault launched by Atrus and his forces. With each clash, the energy surged and clashed, unleashing bursts of blinding light and crackling electricity. The thunderous reverberations echoed through the air, mingling with the roars of the sea dragons and the howling winds of the typhoons. The battlefield became a chaotic symphony of destruction, where water and lightning clashed in an epic display of power. Dahaka's domain was crumbling under the overwhelming might of Atrus, his skills honed to perfection through countless trials and tribulations. In this pivotal moment, the true strength of Khan, known as Atrus, emerged as an unstoppable force, leaving no doubt in the minds of all who bore witness to this extraordinary battle. The world itself seemed to hold its breath, in awe of the power that unfolded before it. Blurg. At this same moment, Dahaka, who was like a chick caught by a wolf, retched and threw up a lot of blood. His situation turning dire as Khan's own barrage of skills started destroying his domain. Even war generals adorn their armors and weapons when facing the war general from the enemy side. It is seen as an etiquette among warriors to acknowledge and respect the opponent in their bout where one of them is bound to die. Spoke Atrus in a grim tone. Yet you came here wearing neither of them. Aren't you just being too unscrupulous towards the code of conduct among great warriors? Or do you feel way too overconfident in your skills, having the notion that you're too strong to even be compared to such people in history? He asked sarcastically. Swoosh! And the very next moment, Atrus quickly appeared in front of Dahaka and his eyes glowed yellow as he used lucid reality and executioner's gaze. The combination of skills instantly paralyzed the combatant of the Black Panther tribe as the latter was pushed into delirium. The world around him changed, and as the backlash of getting his domain destroyed by Atrus kept worsening his situation, his own control over his thoughts was in complete disarray. Rip. Arrgh! Wailed Dahaka in agony as before he even realized what was happening. Atrus had forcefully ripped out one of his fingers on the right palm. Blood seeped from the wound as a ghastly voice resounded. Yet even so, Dahaka could only let out a muffled scream as his body didn't listen to him. You dishonor not only me but all those warriors who partook in the tribal tourney over all these years. By showing such attitude in the finale, it's as if you're looking down on all those who fought in the tourney and died with honor to bring glory to their tribes. His words echoed across the entire Nader Empire. Billions of citizens and all the warrior classes and magic classes were taken aback by these words spoken by Atrus, because his words were sound and accurate if one looked at him from a different perspective. To not bring even his armor and weapons while staking his life in the entire tourney. Wasn't Dahaka basically saying that he didn't even need those like the warriors of past? That he was better than them? Even those who couldn't use magic and never fought a battle in their entire lives found those words reasonable. Look at you. I didn't even need to do much to destroy your even as a newly ascended 5th stage saint. I find it laughable to see such a weak domain in front me from a person who reached that domain. Even as a newly ascended 5th stage saint, I find it laughable to see such a weak domain in front me from a person who reached that rank years before me. Spoke Atrus with a condescending look. You were acting all haughty with these meager skills and weak domain? He kept questioning. Now I feel even more offended. However, this time, it was just a finger. Atrus had ripped off Dahaka's entire arm. People gasped in surprise and goosebumps ran across their bodies. However, little did they know that this was just the beginning. In a stunning display of power and precision, Atrus forcefully tore Dahaka's entire right arm from his body, causing the latter to emit a heart-wrenching cry of agony. Despite being a 5th stage saint, Dahaka found himself unable to tap into his world energy, leaving his physical defenses significantly weakened. It was as if Atrus effortlessly snapped a fragile tree branch, overpowering Dahaka's defenses with ease. Unbeknownst to the spectators, this incredible feat was a result of Khan's utilization of the legendary rank Marauder Emperor skill, an upgraded version of the Marauder King skill. In one-on-one battles, this skill granted Khan the ability to bypass his opponent's physical defenses by an astonishing 80%. During his intensive training under the guidance of Romulus, Khan's journey to master new fighting skills and combat techniques had been anything but idle. His unwavering dedication led him to forsake sleep and rest, devoting every waking moment to refining his existing skills and abilities. As he ascended to the 4th stage saint in the immortal dungeon of the Zivid Empire, many of his SSS rank skills and abilities had evolved into the esteemed saint rank, thanks to his tremendous growth in strength. Through meticulous training and relentless practice, unaided even by his doppelgangers, Khan reached unprecedented levels of mastery and proficiency in these evolved skills. His unwavering determination and tireless efforts were now bearing fruit on the battlefield, leaving the astonished onlookers in awe of the immense power he wielded. With the formidable Marauder Emperor skill in his arsenal, Even the sturdiest of defenses crumbled before the might of Khan's onslaught. What was once an impenetrable steel wall became as fragile as a mere cardboard in the face of his power. Combining this devastating skill with his other formidable abilities such as lucid reality and war dominance, as well as his already exceptional physical prowess that surpassed that of an ordinary saint, Khan held absolute dominion over the battlefield. Dahaka, once a formidable opponent, now found himself reduced to nothing more than a helpless fish on a chopping board, with Khan wielding the knife of his wrath. The mismatch in power and skill was glaringly apparent, leaving little doubt as to the outcome of this fateful encounter. The spectators watched in awe and disbelief as Khan's overwhelming strength and calculated precision dismantled his opponent with ruthless efficiency. Were you always this strong?" asked Dahaka as his arms started healing slowly due to his innate bloodline of the god-beast Baihu. Despite Dahaka's impressive regeneration ability, fueled by his lineage as a true descendant, it paled in comparison to the extraordinary powers acquired by Khan. As a bearer of multiple god-beast bloodlines and the inheritor of Cthulhu's abilities, coupled with his direct descent from the primordial titans, Khan possessed an unmatched level of prowess and resilience. While Dahaka's severed arm would regenerate over time, the overwhelming might of Khan's attacks continued to relentlessly assault him, hindering his recovery and further weakening his defenses. The power gap between the two combatants remained insurmountable, and it seemed that even Dahaka's exceptional regenerative abilities would ultimately prove insufficient to withstand the onslaught of Khan's formidable skills and prowess. The spectators watched in both awe and dread as the battle unfolded, witnessing the clash between an unparalleled warrior and a descendant of legends. It was a testament to the unyielding strength and indomitable spirit of Atrus, whose strength and mercilessness was showcased in front of them for the first time. The warrior who offers deception of being weak to the enemy is the one who will find the quickest opportunity to defeat them, spoke Atrus in a grim tone. That is what my master taught me. If not for his teachings, I wouldn't have been holding myself back. And if I didn't hold myself back, not a single one of the people I faced in this tourney would be alive right now. His domineering voice echoed. In their respective pavilions, Gaja Ektante, Harambe Kong, Hubazin, and Sobek Slithrin, the defeated opponents of Atrus, were struck with a profound sense of unease. The revelation that Atrus had never unleashed his full strength against them sent a shiver down their spines. They realized, with a mixture of awe and dread, that they owed their lives to the mercy of a warrior whose power surpassed their own. As they watched the ongoing battle between Atrus and Dahaka, the true extent of Atrus might become evident. Even Dahaka, the strongest among them, struggled to withstand the relentless onslaught. The realization dawned upon the defeated opponents that their previous matches had been mere glimpses into the immense power that Atrus possessed. In that moment, a mixture of gratitude and fear washed over them. They were alive because Atrus had chosen to spare them, withholding the full force of his abilities. Yet, witnessing the overwhelming display of power against Dahaka, they couldn't help but wonder how different their fates would have been if Atrus had unleashed his true strength during their encounters. The gravity of the situation settled upon them as they realized that their defeats were not due to their own ignorance but rather Atrus' mercy. Now then, what should we go with next? An insidious smirk formed on the blue wolfkin's face. 1 hour later, the entire Nader Empire was dead silent, whether it was people watching the match on holographic screens across the empire or the people in the arena. All of them had a terrified countenance as the display of absolute and horrifying brutality had shaken their souls. First, it was the right arm. But then, Atrus showed a vicious side of him and ripped off Dahaka's left leg before his arm even regenerated halfway. Then he used his claws to cut the pantherkin's ears. Soon, he pulled out the paralyzed enemy's tail and made Dahaka swallow it in front of the whole empire. One after another, he plucked off Dahaka's fingers, the arm, and then slashed his stomach. As the true descendants' guts were put on a display, the inhabitants the Beast Empire, who had seen many brutal sights of brutality over the past 7 centuries in the tribal tourney as part of their tradition, felt a shiver in their spines. Due to Dahaka's innate regeneration capabilities, he wasn't dying as Atrus gave him enough time to recover, but then would find a new way to physically torture and psychologically humiliate his enemy. Majority of people lost their will to watch the match when Atrus made Dahaka eat his own liver, while the latter wriggled in mortifying pain from having his innards pulled out by the blue wolfkin. The battle had stopped long ago, and by now, Atrus should have been declared the winner. But since the results would only be declared after one of them died, Khan took his sweet time in reveling his old habits when it came to torturing his enemies. He used that loophole in rules to not only crush Dahaka physically, but also broke his spirit as a warrior by meting out a humiliation that would make any person want to kill themselves. "This is too cruel. How is this even allowed to happen?" shouted the heavenly king of metal, barely holding his fury after watching his own son, the one he was most proud of and saw him succeeding as a heavenly king in future, experiencing the greatest shame any prideful warrior has went through in the history of the Beast Empire. "Stop the match!" he bellowed in indescribable rage. But right then, an intense and insurmountable pressure was exerted on everyone in the arena. Atrus has not broken any rules. This is not the first time in our cultural history that a warrior has tortured his enemy during a deathmatch. The only thing that distinguishes the present from the past, spoke the Empress in an unforgiving tone, is that none of them ever went to such extreme lengths. Deep within, she couldn't help but find a certain satisfaction in such a grand display, acknowledging Atrus's immense creativity in incorporating the ears, tail, and fur, the most cherished aspects of their physical beings among the majority of beastkin races. By now, Atrus had managed to incur the wrath of nearly 80% of the Beast Empire through his audacious actions. However, the Empress perceived this as an opportunity to further her own ulterior motives, subtly intertwining her agenda with the unfolding chaos. "It is time to decide your end. So tell me, do you accept defeat?" asked Atrus in a jarring voice. Dahaka only nodded in fear while enduring his unimaginable pain. Swoom! Both combatants were summoned back to the arena, their presence required even after Dahaka had reluctantly admitted defeat. However, the ancient laws of the Beast Empire dictated that the match was far from over. "What becomes of you?" Atrus's voice resonated with sinister undertones. "Shall not be determined by me alone. The arbiter of your life or death shall be." With a dramatic flourish, Atrus unveiled the entire assembly of the Nader Empire, the very beings who would hold Dahaka's fate in their hands. "My master!" Unleashing a horrendous and bone-chilling spectacle upon the entire empire, Atrus pronounced the individual who held the power to determine Dahaka's destiny. The ultimate judge would be none other than Atrus's own master, Romulus Lycaos, the esteemed heavenly king of fire. As per the rules, the match would only conclude with the death of one of the combatants, even if the defeated party surrendered. However, there existed a clause within the ancient laws. In the climactic finale, if one party yielded and a reigning heavenly king exercised their vote to spare the life of the vanquished, they could be granted mercy. This rule had faded into obscurity over time, as it was an exceedingly rare occurrence in the annals of tribal tournaments for the victor to extend clemency to their defeated adversary. The previous night, Khan and Romulus had engaged in a private conversation, delving into the intricate details of the matter. During their discussion, Romulus revealed Dahaka's true origins and the potential ramifications of his demise, considering he was the son of Jero, the heavenly king of metal. Throughout the match between Atrus and Dahaka, Romulus maintained a stoic silence, his countenance reflecting deep contemplation as he weighed the gravity of his impending decision. And at this pivotal moment, Atrus boldly proclaimed that Romulus would wield the final authority, casting the spotlight upon his master for the ultimate verdict. According to Act 3, Clause 39 and Section C of the Tribal Tourney Laws, I can act as the interim adjudicator since I am the winner's mentor as well as a heavenly king, declared Romulus as he stood up from his throne. Billions of people who had no idea what these laws were then told by the announcers about the laws of the tribal tourney, enlightening them about the ancient rules. "I will follow your decision, master," spoke Atrus loudly. If Romulus opted to spare Dahaka, he would be hailed as the ultimate victor, triumphing without resorting to the Pantherkin's demise. A collective gasp escaped from the millions of onlookers, rendering the atmosphere pregnant with anticipation. The preceding spectacle of brutality and the extreme humiliation inflicted upon Dahaka had managed to evoke sympathy even from those who had initially relished the prospect of witnessing one of the combatants meet their demise. Romulus scanned the various pavilions, his gaze eventually settling upon Jero. The heavenly king of metal appeared visibly distraught, his labored breathing and pleading countenance silently beseeching for his son's life. "What is your counsel in this matter?" Romulus inquired of Khan, assuming his Atrus form, seeking his shadow disciple's honest opinion on this matter. Khan responded with unwavering confidence. "Make a judicious choice, one that takes into account the potential consequences of both decisions, and whether we possess the means to confront them or not." Meanwhile, the Empress and the two remaining heavenly kings nodded in agreement, signaling their alignment with Romulus's impending verdict, in accordance with the age-old ancestral laws. Step. With measured steps, Romulus stood up from his throne and advanced, capturing the attention of all the broadcasting devices and the individuals present within the arena. Every eye turned towards the heavenly king of fire, their collective hopes yearning for a merciful resolution. Finally, Romulus directed his gaze to the heart of the arena, where millions of spectators watched intently, witnessing Atrus relentlessly trampling upon Dahaka's back. In a pivotal moment, Romulus raised his right palm, holding the power to shape the destiny of Dahaka, and locked eyes with Atrus. His piercing gaze met Atrus's, their silent exchange laden with significance. Then, with deliberate intent, Romulus made a subtle gesture with his fist. A collective gasp of shock rippled through the billions of individuals witnessing this defining moment, the ultimate decision of the tribe leader of the Fenrirborn tribe. Thumb down. In a scene reminiscent of gladiatorial arenas, where the emperor's decree held supreme authority, Romulus delivered a fateful verdict with a simple gesture of dissent. "No, wait!" shouted Jero with utter disbelief, and Dahaka had his both eyes widen in bewilderment. "Rip!" However, before the father and son duo could even process the shocking turn of events, an even more gruesome sight unfolded before the eyes of the entire Beast Empire. With barely a moment's pause after Romulus pronounced his decree, Atrus sprang into action with lightning speed, acting swiftly and mercilessly. And now, in his outstretched hand, Atrus held Dahaka's ripped-out head along with the entire spine. In a way, this was a trophy of Khan's victory. "And oh!" bellowed Jero in pain and sorrow, while billions of netizens of the Beast Empire were simply shaken at this sudden phenomenon. Contrary to their previous expectations, Romulus chose to give Dahaka the death penalty. "You!" roared Jero, and the very next moment, he appeared in the middle of the arena, directly facing Atrus. Boom! As the sight of Dahaka's decapitated form registered within the depths of his being, an overwhelming surge of intense and heaven-shaking saint pressure burst forth from Jero. His aura erupted with an unprecedented display of unfathomable fury and wrath, rattling the very foundations of the arena. The air crackled with an electric charge, and a palpable tension settled upon the onlookers, who found themselves in awe and trepidation in the face of such raw power. The unleashed wrath of a heavenly king reverberated throughout the Beast Empire, leaving an indelible mark upon the collective consciousness of all who bore witness. Swoosh! Swoosh! However, in the very next moment, Halder, Kaida, and Romulus appeared in the arena. The three heavenly kings meddled in mere moments. Whoosh! As the Empress observed the grisly scene, her countenance shifted, and she made a decisive move to directly intervene and appeared on Atrus' side. With a commanding presence, she approached Atrus, her gaze fixed upon the dangling head and spine of Dahaka. The pantherkin's lifeless body writhed on the ground, akin to a headless serpent, while his vacant eyes held a ghastly and terrified expression. Dahaka had met his demise in a state of sheer shock and fear, his last moments consumed by a horrifying realization. Simultaneously, the remaining heavenly kings, stirred by the unleashed fury of Jero, united their strengths and released their formidable auras. Their combined powers surpassed even the oppressive force emanating from Jero, effectively cornering him in a seemingly helpless predicament. The clash of auras created an intense struggle, each force vying for dominance, as the fate of Jero, the heavenly king of metal, hung in a precarious balance. I, Empress Kali Adishesha of the Nader Empire, declare a truce Bellator as the final victor of this year's Elysium tribal tourney. The Empress' grand and majestic voice resounded throughout the entire empire as she declared a truce as the winner of the competition. Gasp! All people could do was gasp in bewilderment, many still unable to absorb what just transpired here. Atreus has rightfully won the tourney, and the imperial rule accepts this verdict. However, given the situation, if the Black Panther tribe and you as their tribe leader decide to retaliate to this decision and kill Atreus now or in the future because he killed your son, as per the laws of the empire, all the 12 tribes and the imperial force will have to band together and slaughter your entire tribe. So make your decision wisely, Heavenly King of Metal," declared the Empress. In the midst of the unfolding chaos, a crucial law came to the forefront, one that protected the Shadow disciples who emerged victorious in the competition. This law served as a safeguard against those harboring deep grudges, preventing them from seeking revenge and eliminating the victors for slaying their representatives. Jero's eyes burned with an all-consuming fury, his face etched with an overwhelming thirst for revenge. The murderer of his beloved son stood a mere meter away, within his reach, and Jero possessed the capability to end his life if he so desired. Yet, he faced a grim and agonizing choice, one that would determine the fate of his entire tribe, comprising 35 million individuals. Should he succumb to his seething rage and impulses, the consequence would be the complete annihilation of his people. Warriors, men, women, the elderly, and even innocent children, including helpless infants, all would be subject to obliteration should he allow his fury to consume him. This was the brutal reality governed by an archaic law within the depths of the Beast Empire, one capable of eradicating Jero's entire tribe from the face of the world. The weight of responsibility and the dire consequences hung heavily upon Jero's heart, as he grappled with the choice between personal revenge and the preservation of his people. Swoosh! In a moment of profound significance, another Pantherkin emerged from the shadows, revealing themselves to be a sixth-stage saint. Towering over even the Heavenly King himself, this individual possessed an imposing stature and an air of authority. It became evident that he was none other than Jero's official disciple and his eldest son. "Father, please restrain yourself. As much as I want to kill this Fenrir-born, you carry the fate of our entire tribe on your shoulders at this moment." He implored his father to not make a rash decision. But in truth, he was one of the happiest people here since Dahaka was vying for his position by winning the tourney. Yet, he put up the act of a grieving and enraged elder brother in front of everyone. While the tension mounted and the stage was set for a clash between Jero and Atreus, the latter maintained an unnerving silence. His countenance exuded an unwavering fearlessness, as if he harbored no trace of trepidation in the face of the fearsome Heavenly King of Metal. Jero's body quivered with an overwhelming surge of wrath, his every fiber resonating with unimaginable killing intent. The desire to unleash his fury and exact vengeance consumed him, threatening to plunge him into a maelstrom of impulsive action. Yet, in the midst of his seething emotions, the words of his eldest son resonated deeply within him, serving as a grounding force. The weight of responsibility pressed upon Jero's consciousness. The lives of millions of his tribe members hung in the balance, their very existence dependent on his singular decision. With this realization, Jero fought against the overwhelming tide of his own rage, compelled to consider the consequences of his actions with utmost care. The primal instinct to retaliate clashed with the weight of his duty as a leader and protector. As Jero struggled to regain control over his tumultuous emotions, the fates of his tribe members rested in the balance, their lives intertwined with the impending judgment that would shape the course of their collective future. "I, the Heavenly King of Metal and the entire Black Panther tribe," spoke Jero, and with great reluctance, he made a vow in front of the entire empire. "Shall not seek vengeance." Forced to relinquish his seething rage and unyielding killing intent, Jero, the indomitable Heavenly King of Metal, found himself with no alternative but to declare that neither he nor the entire Black Panther tribe would seek vengeance against Atrus, the blue Fenrirborn responsible for the gruesome demise of Dahaka, a spectacle witnessed by the entire Beast Empire. Bound by the unyielding shackles of the ancestral laws, Jero's hands were tied, leaving him no recourse but to relinquish his vengeful desires. The weight of these laws loomed large, their consequences threatening to engulf not only him but his entire tribe and the affiliated clans that stood under their banner. Though ruthless and unforgiving, these ancient laws were the foundation upon which the Nader Empire thrived, ensuring order and equitable treatment for its populace. Even the Empress herself was not exempt from their jurisdiction, let alone a heavenly king, the second highest authority within their social hierarchy. The obsolete laws of the Nader Empire, while not necessarily favorable to the individuals involved, had served as the backbone of their civilization, ensuring stability and maintaining a delicate balance of power. As Jero reluctantly bowed to their uncompromising demands, he recognized the gravity of the situation and the potential consequences that would befall his tribe should he dare to defy these long-standing traditions. Overwhelmed with a sense of resignation, the heavenly king of metal and his son, accompanied by the saints from their tribe, gathered Dahaka's corpse and slowly departed from the arena. Each step carried the weight of Jero's vow, his solemn promise to uphold the decision he had made in the presence of the entire Beast Empire. Although their hearts still burned with grief and the desire for retribution, they recognized the irreversible consequences that would befall their tribe should they dare to break their promise. Reluctantly, they turned their backs on the scene of the battle, leaving behind a sense of unresolved tension and unspoken resentment. Swoosh! As they made their way out of the arena, the onlookers watched in a mix of awe, sympathy, and lingering apprehension. The Beast Empire bore witness to the display of honor and restraint demonstrated by the Black Panther tribe, as they chose to abide by their leader's solemn pledge, even in the face of tremendous loss and seething anger. Phew! So this is how it feels like being in power, huh? Wondered Khan. Despite maintaining a seemingly unaffected demeanor as Atrus, Khan couldn't help but release a deep sigh within the recesses of his mind. The turn of events had brought about a significant shift in his circumstances, one that carried both relief and a sense of newfound power. In his second life, this marked the first occasion in which Khan had publicly taken the life of another being. However, what set this particular instance apart was the protection and backing he received from formidable powerhouses, namely the three heavenly kings and the Empress herself. Their presence, acting as his unwavering bodyguards, stood as a testament to the ancestral laws that governed their society. Unlike his previous encounters in the Rakos, Vulcan, and Zivat empires, where he had to navigate the intricate webs of power and acquiesce to influential figures even after rightfully emerging victorious, Khan now experienced a different reality. The weight of their support and the absence of any immediate ramifications for his actions served as a profound revelation. He found himself truly comprehending the influence wielded by those in positions of power, surrounded by the unwavering backing of the strongest individuals in their society. In this moment, Khan couldn't help but acknowledge the significance of his newfound standing. The strength and support displayed by the heavenly kings and the Empress, coupled with his lawful victory without any immediate consequences, opened his eyes to a new realm of understanding when you had absolute authority. In a sense, he almost felt like he was a royal prince who would be untouched regardless of whose life he took. Atrus Bellator is the new champion, the announcer declared with great excitement. However, his zealous proclamation was not met by excitement nor celebration, as even now, all the audience across the arena and the empire were simply silent. Woo-hoo! All hail Lord Atrus! All hail the Fenrirborn tribe! As the news of Atrus's actions spread throughout the Beast Empire, a wave of disapproval and criticism surged among the netizens and general populace. The sacred lineage that held a revered place in the hearts of the empire's inhabitants. Brutality and uncouth demeanor displayed by Atrus had left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of the people, tarnishing their perception of him. Other than the 30 million members of the Fenrirborn tribe, no group of masses celebrated this victory. One of the key factors contributing to the widespread disapproval was Atrus's blatant disrespect towards the descendants of god-beast Baihu. This act alone had struck a nerve among many, as it showcased a lack of reverence and disregard for the sacred lineage that held a revered place in the hearts of the empire's inhabitants. Furthermore, the manner in which Atrus had tortured Dahaka during their match sent shockwaves throughout the populace. Even those who typically relished in battles and savored displays of strength found themselves unsettled and disturbed by the extreme lengths to which Atrus had gone. His actions had crossed the line of acceptability, pushing the boundaries of what was considered honorable conduct on the battlefield. In a society where strength was revered and respected, Atrus had failed to embody the virtues and character expected of a great warrior. The lack of honor, glory, and noble conduct in his actions left the netizens and the people of the empire disillusioned and unable to find any aspect of his behavior to idolize or admire. The disapproval echoed through the virtual realm as the netizens voiced their dissatisfaction and disappointment, highlighting the stark contrast between Atrus's raw power and his flawed character. Despite the rising anger and resentment among the masses, Atrus remained unperturbed by the public opinion, displaying a complete disregard for the backlash he received. "Humph! Weaklings acting like they have the right to complain against the strong," said Atrus condescendingly. In a brazen display of arrogance, he openly dismissed the opinions of those he deemed weak, considering them inconsequential in the face of his own strength. His words, dripping with disdain, only served to further fuel the ire of the people who felt marginalized and belittled by his callous attitude. This unprecedented turn of events marked a significant departure from the usual celebration and adulation bestowed upon the champion of the tribal tourney. Instead of being hailed as a hero and revered for his prowess, Atrus found himself inundated with a barrage of abhorrence and abuses voiced by the public. The anger that emanated from the masses stemmed not only from his brutal actions within the arena but also from his blatant disregard for the sentiments and values cherished by the Beast Empire's population. In the end, even the weak masses did not like being told that they were weak and their lives didn't matter compared to the strong and elites of the society. The netizens and citizens of the empire, once filled with anticipation and excitement, now channeled their frustration and discontent towards Atrus. They expressed their disdain, condemning his character and behavior, denouncing his lack of empathy and his disdain for those who lacked power. The champion of the tribal tourney, who was meant to embody the ideals of strength, honor, and heroism, had instead become the target of their collective scorn. As the public vented their anger and disappointment through various platforms, the atmosphere surrounding Atrus remained charged with palpable animosity. "Silence!" The Empress's commanding voice reverberated through the grand hall, casting a hush over the entire gathering. Not a single soul dared to break the solemnity by uttering even a single word. As the victor of this arduous competition, and as a formidable shadow disciple under the tutelage of the revered tribe leader of the Fenrir-born tribe, her voice, laced with authority and grace, filled the vast space, leaving no corner untouched by its resonance. "I hereby proclaim Atrus Bellator as the official disciple. After the Fenrir-born tribe council bestows their official seal of approval upon him, he shall ascend to the esteemed rank of Romulus Lycaos's rightful successor," she announced, her words resounding with a majestic fervor that commanded unwavering attention. "As his position entails, from this moment on, Atrus Bellator is the future tribe leader of the Fenrir-born tribe," she declared in a majestic tone. "And the final and predetermined reward, Atrus shall now choose the regions for the Fenrir-born tribe to acquire and manage for the next 20 years as per the laws," she proclaimed. Ultimately, the tribal tourney had been orchestrated for precisely this purpose. For the Shadow Disciples, the ultimate prize lay in securing the prestigious title of official disciple, a coveted status that symbolized their future as the next tribe leader. However, for the tribes themselves, the true allure lay in the rewards and lands they would gain the privilege to govern, oversee, and reap bountiful harvests from. True to his master, Romulus' guidance, Atrus meticulously selected the choicest regions across the Nader Empire to rule under the Fenrir-born tribe's authority. The repercussions of his decisions left a bitter aftertaste in the mouths of rival tribes, as well as those within the imperial rule. These territories represented the most lucrative and desirable spoils that had been fervently sought after by all participants throughout the duration of the tribal tourney. However, just as the dust was settling and the competitors and onlookers alike anticipated the fruits of Atrus's triumph, a sudden turn of events unfolded, shocking the entire Beast Empire. Atrus suddenly pulled in all the broadcasting artifacts using his Saint Pressure and now faced the populace of the Nader Empire, his voice carrying the weight of a solemn proclamation. "I, Atrus Bellator." Khan's voice rang out, commanding attention and stirring a ripple of curiosity among the witnessing masses. "Hereby renounce and forfeit my right to become the official disciple." Unexpected to all the netizens of the Nader Empire as well as the top echelons, Khan aka Atrus suddenly decided to proclaim his letting go of the right to become the official disciple. Gasp! Flabbergasted. As if there was no end to today's shocking events one after another, entire Beast Empire citizens gasped collectively from their respective locations across the nation. The news of Khan's surprising decision reverberated not only within the confines of the Grand Assembly, but also throughout the digital realm, captivating the attention of countless netizens within the vast expanse of the Nader Empire. From the bustling city streets to the most remote corners of the realm, whispers of disbelief and speculation spread like wildfire among the populace. The top echelons of society were equally taken aback by Khan's unexpected proclamation. The influential figures, the nobles, and the advisors who had closely observed the intense competition and anticipated the rise of a new leader were left astounded. Their carefully crafted strategies and predictions now crumbled in the face of this unprecedented turn of events. As the news rippled through the virtual networks and discussion forums, debates erupted among the netizens, each voice clamoring to decipher the motivations behind Khan's shocking renouncement. Speculations flourished, with theories ranging from hidden agendas to secret alliances. The unexpected twist injected an electrifying energy into the conversations, captivating the collective attention and leaving everyone eagerly awaiting further explanations from the enigmatic Atrus himself. Even the Heavenly King of Light Halder, Heavenly King of Water Kaida, and Empress Kali were bewildered after the sudden turn of events. "Why do you reject this reward? Isn't that why you fought in the tribal tourney in the first place?" asked the Empress, still bamboozled. "If not to become the official disciple and the future tribe leader, what reason could there be for Atrus to stake his life at a gamble in this competition?" And for some reason, he used the words renounce and forfeit in the same sentence. "I participated because my master asked me to win the rights to govern the elected places for the sake of Fenrirborn tribe. I had no intention to become the future tribe leader at all," responded Atrus. Shocked, this unexpected turn of events left not only the spectators within the arena and the broader Nader Empire in a state of bewilderment but also the members of the Fenrirborn tribe themselves. The esteemed elders of the Fenrirborn tribe council, along with the influential clan leaders, stood frozen in disbelief, their minds struggling to grasp the sudden twist of fate. Legacy continue through Atrus. Their expressions mirrored a mix of confusion and surprise. As they exchanged perplexed glances among those who found themselves taken aback were the disciples of Romulus, who had been training diligently under his guidance, their dedication fueled by the prospect of witnessing their master's legacy continue through Atrus. Their expressions mirrored a mix of confusion and surprise, as they exchanged perplexed glances with one another. Even Romulus's own family, including his wife Priscilla and their children, were not immune to the shock that rippled through the arena. They stared at Romulus with a blend of confusion and concern, silently seeking answers in his eyes, longing for an explanation to reconcile this unexpected development. In the midst of the bewildered crowd, the Heavenly King of Fire, a figure known for his profound insight and unparalleled might, did not display surprise. Instead, a glimmer of anticipation sparkled in his eyes, hinting at a hidden understanding or expectation that lay beneath the surface. Let me explain the reason why Atrus used the word renus to everyone. His domineering and regal voice resounded. Although he won the matches with his own might, he never wished to become my successor. So other than the benefits for the tribe, he is relinquishing this right to become the official disciple. He reiterated the words spoken by his mentee. As for the word forfeit, there is a big reason for that. His voice turning serious. In this crucial moment, the unfolding events revealed a carefully orchestrated plan that had been conceived between Romulus and Atrus in the depths of the previous night. Their intentions, now becoming apparent, shed light on the greater purpose behind Atrus' unexpected decision. It had been long foreseen that there would come a day when Khan would depart from the confines of the Beast Empire, once his training had reached its culmination and a certain unfathomably entity sought him out, as they had discussed in a conversation almost a year ago when Khan had first encountered Romulus after his escape from the Elven Empire. Romulus, with meticulous precision, had crafted the persona of Atrus Bellator for Khan Salvator and deliberately unveiled him as the formidable shadow disciple who would participate in the tribal tourney. Simultaneously, this strategy placed immense mental pressure and imposed a strict deadline on Khan, compelling him to train rigorously and with unwavering focus, ensuring his survival in the competition. As a result, Khan emerged victorious throughout the entirety of the tournament, astonishingly triumphing over his adversaries without even employing the 5 unique combat techniques imparted by his master, nor utilizing any of the magical skills and spells taught by Vildred. This unparalleled feat distinguished him from the most talented and prodigious combatants within the Beast Empire, all of whom had already achieved the esteemed rank of 5th stage saints. Furthermore, Khan achieved these victories while masquerading as a brawler-class saint, a status he had attained a mere few months prior. Astoundingly, he never resorted to utilizing his harnessing, conceptualization, or even his dimensional law abilities, yet he triumphed over the future powerhouses of the Nader Empire. Now that their initial objectives had been successfully accomplished, the time had come to establish a compelling reason for Khan to break free from the confines of the Beast Empire's laws and traditions, providing him a route to bypass them. Because even though he won rightfully, Atrus does not meet one of the conditions that are stated in our ancestral laws of the tribal tourney. He revealed a hidden secret. "What reason is that?" queried the Empress. Romulus nodded and then gave a signal to Atrus through his eyes. With a nod of confirmation from Romulus, a silent communication passing between them, Atrus discerned his master's unspoken directive. Without hesitation, he extended his right hand, retrieving a gleaming dagger from the depths of his space ring. The audience held their breath, their eyes fixed on Atrus as he brought the blade to his palm, drawing it across the flesh with a controlled precision. A thin line of crimson appeared, seeping forth from the wound. Gasp! The collective gasp that escaped the onlookers echoed through the air, mingling with a mix of curiosity. Atrus's stoic expression remained unchanged as he held his bleeding palm aloft, the blood slowly trickling down his fingers. Drip! Drip! As Atrus's blood dripped onto the polished floor of the arena, a collective murmur spread among the Empire's populace. The Heavenly Kings, known for their insight and wisdom, exchanged curious glances, attempting to decipher the true meaning behind Atrus's shocking display. The Empress, the embodiment of authority and sagacity, observed the scene with a mix of intrigue and anticipation, her sharp gaze piercing through the veil of mystery. Each drop of blood that fell carried an untold narrative waiting to be unveiled. It was clear that Atrus had a profound intention behind this act, a revelation that he intended to disclose through his own blood. "Do you think it will work?" he asked Romulus telepathically. "It should. I originally had different plans, but ever since you met Hero of Nature and the Empress by coincidence, this is the only method left for us to keep your secret well hidden," responded the Red Wolfkin. "And if my guess is correct, then she is already very suspicious of your identity ever since the day you two met. So it is better for us to use this upper hand to our advantage before she makes a move of her own to expose you," said Romulus. Their telepathic conversation only took a second in the real time of Vantria, and the very next moment in the arena, boom! As the blood from Atrus's palm mingled with the polished surface, an unforeseen phenomenon unfolded before the astonished eyes of the onlookers. A sudden surge of energy, in contrasting shades of ethereal white and profound black, erupted from the pooling blood, casting an otherworldly glow that enveloped the arena. Shock! This, how can it be? stuttered the heavenly King Kaida with utter shock. This has never happened before. This shouldn't be possible, clamored the heavenly King Halder with bewildered eyes. This is. And in the wake of Atrus's awe-inspiring revelation, it was the Empress herself who bore the brunt of the profound shock. Her regal composure shattered, and her entire being trembled uncontrollably with a mix of astonishment, disbelief, and a touch of trepidation. The magnitude of what she had just witnessed had left her speechless, her usually poised demeanor crumbling before the overwhelming truth that lay before her. With the unexpected and unforeseeable revelation in front of her eyes, the Empress finally revealed the cause of such an intense reaction in front of the whole Beast Empire. The Basilisk bloodline. As the Empress unveiled the truth behind Atrus's bloodline, the impact of her revelation rippled through the airwaves, reaching not only the Beast Empire but also every corner of the Nader Empire where citizens were tuned in to the momentous broadcast. In an instant, a collective hush fell upon the viewers, their bodies immobilized by a shock that coursed through their very cores. The powerhouses, the esteemed figures occupying the upper echelons of the Empire's hierarchy, found themselves rooted in place, their faces etched with disbelief and astonishment. The implications of Atrus possessing the Basilisk bloodline, a lineage that carried with it an ancient and formidable legacy, struck them with the force of a thunderbolt. It was a revelation that shattered preconceived notions and challenged the very fabric of their understanding. Not only the powerful individuals, but also the ordinary citizens who watched in awe, were paralyzed by the revelation. They had been unaware of the depths of Atrus's heritage, unaware of the intertwining forces that flowed within his veins. The revelation that the white aura symbolized Fenrir's bloodline and the black aura represented the mighty Basilisk's bloodline sparked a surge of realization and comprehension. In this moment, the Nader Empire collectively grappled with the enormity of what they had witnessed. How is this even possible? This has never happened in the history of our empire. Such anomaly, I have never heard of it, spoke the Empress. The revelation of Atrus possessing both the Fenrir and Basilisk bloodlines sent shockwaves throughout the Nader Empire, for it was a phenomenon previously deemed impossible. The Empress herself was privy to this knowledge, as she hailed from a lineage of Kukulkan, the bloodline with the highest purity of the god-beast Basilisk among the true descendant tribes. Although the Empress's own bloodline held a greater degree of purity than that of Atrus, the astonishing truth remained unchanged. Atrus possessed a concentration of both the Fenrir and Basilisk bloodlines that far surpassed even the most revered clans within the Basilisk tribe. In the immemorial era when the three primordial species and the first walkers still roamed, Fenrir and Basilisk were not inherently enemies. However, due to the immense power and distinct attributes of their respective bloodlines, a deep-seated incompatibility and rivalry emerged, mirroring the ancient enmity between the Draconian and Basilisk bloodlines. Is this the reason why I sensed a form of kinship with him that day when I went to save Maximus and killed that superior dragon? She asked herself, questioning her previous assumptions. This shook all the heavenly kings because this was not supposed to be possible. Sigh. Romulus then took a deep sigh and continued with a crestfallen look. Atrus is the son of Augustus Constantine and Teresa Agrippina. His voice resonated across the empire. What? Exclaimed the Empress in bewilderment. The other two heavenly kings and all the members of the 12 tribes were also bemused. Those two names had a history known only to them because it was a huge deal to many who still lived in those times. For those who do not know, spoke Romulus somberly, Augustus Constantine and Teresa Agrippina were actually the shadow disciples of the previous tribe leaders of both the Fenrirborn and Basilisk tribe. He openly declared. And they were also the people who had broken the sacred law of the 12 tribes, to love someone who belonged to a different tribe of a rival true descendant family. He revealed the dark past that was unknown to common people of the empire. As per the laws of the 12 tribes, you are forbidden to love or marry someone from a different species, a true descendant bloodline and tribe with the bloodline of a different god-beast. And both of them committed that very crime. His gaze turned heavy. This well-guarded secret of the 12 tribes was now left bare open in front of the entire Nader Empire. Among the masses, There was no restriction on loving and marrying someone from a different clan. However, the 12 tribes, many of whom were part of the true descendant families, forbid it. However, the commoners never knew that if you broke this law, you'd get killed for it. Right then, another bewildered voice echoed, "What the hell are you talking about? You said you found me in a jungle, that I was abandoned by my parents and left to die in a monster-infested area." Atrus spoke full of disbelief as if he heard it for the first time as well. Romulus shook his head. "That was to protect you given the identity of your parents. Besides, if I told you that your parents were killed instead, you would have grown up to be a resentful and vengeful person. You would not have trained so hard under me for the past 80 years if I didn't give you a reason of creating your own identity and make your parents regret abandoning you. For that, as your master, I'm truly sorry." He spoke in an apologetic and remorseful voice. "My entire life. You have been lying to me?" roared Atreus in rage, but at the same time, a defeated and sorrowful expression appeared on his face with eyes full of tears. The fierce roar of Atrus reverberated through the arena, carrying with it a tumultuous blend of anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of sorrow. The conflicting emotions etched upon his face, a battleground of rage and heartbreak, stirred a collective empathy among those who bore witness to this dramatic revelation. The people of the Empire, now caught in the crosscurrents of Atrus's emotions, grappled with their own conflicting sentiments. The realization that Romulus, his revered mentor and father figure, had been concealing the truth all along shook the foundations of trust and understanding that had been built over time. It was an act born out of love, a desperate attempt to protect and fortify Atrus, but the cost of this deception had left deep wounds within his soul. Atrus's journey, from his upbringing as an orphan, through the relentless pursuit of strength and the attainment of his current stature as a formidable fifth-stage saint, resonated with the hearts of many across the Empire. Yet, in this moment of revelation, the very foundation of Atrus's identity had been shaken to its core. The pain of growing up without a family, the sacrifices made in the pursuit of strength, and the heavy burden of expectations now mingled with the bitterness of deceit. Tears welled up in Atrus's eyes, a poignant reflection of the profound inner conflict that raged within him. As the people of the Empire witnessed this clash of emotions, they, too, found themselves torn between empathy and bewilderment. Unbeknownst to the billions of people in the Beast Empire, whose teary eyes and heavy hearts were captivated by the unfolding drama, a secret lay concealed behind the curtain of deception. Khan and Romulus were just improvising their acting skills on the spot, crying in front of the viewers as both shamelessly and hysterically laughed in their minds. Romulus then revealed another history page. "Your father was my benefactor when I was only a peak grandmaster. He saved my life from a monster tide. In a sense, we had become friends over the years," spoke Romulus and then explained his connection to Atrus' parents in front of the Empire. "But one day, Augustus and Teresa showed up at my home, riddled with battle wounds. In Teresa's hand was a newborn. He let out a deep sigh. He gave me his son to safeguard it for a few weeks. But only a few days later, I heard the news of Augustus and Teresa died while fighting a monster. I did not understand the story behind it back then, but they were obviously killed by their respective tribes." He looked in the sky, his countenance heavy with loss. "To repay the person who saved my life back then, I decided to look after Atrus, and ever since then, I have been raising him in secret. It was also during those times I was scouted by the previous Fenrirborn tribe leader who met me a couple of years later after I had just become a saint, and then I became his shadow disciple." He connected the dots and recounted the things of the past that many were aware of. "But I still couldn't reveal Atrus to anyone, not even my former master," he iterated solemnly. And then Romulus' gaze turned to Empress Kali. "Atrus is a natural oddity that shouldn't have been born. He is 80 years old. Same time as their death and my recruitment." He spoke in a stoic tone. The timeline's chronological order here was perfect. He has Fenrir bloodline prominent while his Basilisk bloodline is still dormant because they will make him go mad due to imbalance. In the fight against Sobuk, Many of you saw him use an illusion technique on his opponent who is of the Basilisk tribe. He recounted the happenings of yesterday's match. We all know how hypnosis and illusion techniques are attributed mainly to the saints of the Basilisk tribe due to their bloodline. Unless one is a mage studying illusion arts like the ones practiced in other empires even before they become a grandmaster, no one can be as effective as the mastery showed by Atrus in that match. He shed light on already known facts to the masses. These words made everyone recall the fight between Atrus and Sobek just yesterday. Back then, many people were puzzled and shocked to see that Atrus could use illusion techniques just like Sobek. Yet they attributed it to his hidden talent. But now that Romulus explained it, it made sense that Atrus could use the power specialty of the Basilisk tribe members such as Sobek, who spent close to a century perfecting them. So this was the reason, thought the Empress. At this moment, the Empress had an ugly countenance. Because Sobek himself raised this question yesterday night when she summoned him to her accommodations. He too said that Atrus might not even be a Fenrirborn since he could use the illusion skills and was unfazed by Sobek's natural venom. And according to what Romulus explained, it made perfect sense. Damn it! I was going to use this as an excuse to interrogate and imprison him in the future, to find his origins, using the excuse that his birth was not registered in the true descendant families. Cursed the Empress Kaliadesisha. She looked at Romulus while hiding her killing intent. Her future plans had been thwarted by the Heavenly King of Fire after he revealed this fact in front of the whole empire. Now, she had no justification to imprison or even interrogate Atrus since his origins were now public knowledge. What she didn't know was that Khan intentionally used that illusion technique skill named Lucid Reality during his match against Sobek Slytherin. This was also something Romulus had told him to do yesterday morning, as he was already creating a perfect way to reinforce Atrus' background. Atrus is now a 5th stage saint and can't be killed indiscriminately even if the 12 tribes oppose his existence. Spoke Romulus, and the very next second, boom! His unrestrained killing intent arose, and the entire Beast Empire saw the fiery-maned Wolfkin's tyrannical countenance. He is the Heavenly King of Fire's disciple. Anyone who touches him will be my enemy. And I do not care if I have to attack an entire tribe and burn them to cinders should they dare to harm Atrus. His deathly glare shook the hearts of everyone in the Beast Empire. With the strongest Heavenly King, the second strongest being in the Empire backing him, who would even dare to raise a finger against Atrus, let alone kill him? Atrus has to become at least a 7th stage saint to use and control both of his bloodlines. However, only a pureblood is allowed to become the tribe leader as per the laws agreed by all the 12 tribes since our ancestors founded this empire. But due to his origin, he is unqualified to lead the Fenrirborn tribe as per our tribe's laws. Romulus had already prepared the backstory of Khan's origin as Atrus, and now they had a perfect and logical justification for him to not be bound by tradition and become the next successor to the tribe leader's position. The plotline was so perfect that even his fake background story had a fake background story. As the profound revelation of Atrus's true identity reverberated through the empire, the air grew heavy with anticipation. The momentous truth, unveiled in the presence of billions, demanded further elucidation. Added with the conviction displayed by Romulus, the Heavenly King of Fire, the situation was now at a standstill where even a misunderstood word could lead to a great conflict. Moreover, the Empress found herself in a precarious position when it came to enforcing the 12 tribe laws upon Atrus. As a 5th stage saint, Atrus had ascended to a level of power that made him a formidable force within the Beast Empire. His status as a future powerhouse further solidified his position and granted him a certain degree of autonomy. While the 12 tribes held significant influence and boasted the largest number of saints and population within the empire, they were not the sole authority. The presence of other influential clans and tribes meant that the power dynamics within the empire were complex and multifaceted. The Empress understood that taking any action against Atrus would inevitably lead to a confrontation with Romulus, his steadfast mentor and protector. Romulus's reputation, expertise, and unwavering dedication to his disciple made him a force to be reckoned with, a staunch defender of Atrus's rights and interests. The Empress found herself in a predicament, her authority constrained by the hierarchical power structure deeply ingrained in the empire's laws and culture. Despite being the strongest individual in the empire, she could not simply disregard the existence of Romulus, for the laws established by the first emperor of the Nader Empire, who happened to be Halder's great-grandfather, posed an impenetrable barrier. These laws included a clause that limited the actions and decisions of future generations of emperors and empresses. Even though the empress had achieved the rank of a beginner 8th-stage saint, a remarkable feat she accomplished just 2 decades ago, her powers were overshadowed by the presence of 2 peak 7th-stage saints. Among these 2 powerful figures, the Heavenly King of Fire, Romulus Lycaeus, and the Heavenly King of Light, Halder, it was understood that Romulus possessed far greater strength. This knowledge was known only to the Heavenly Kings and the upper echelons of the imperial rule. Additionally, there was the intermediate 7th-stage saint, the Heavenly King of Metal, Jero, who had recently departed from the scene. And finally, there was the Heavenly King of Water, Kaida, who completed the lineup of the Heavenly Kings. If the situation had merely involved exerting brute force or strong-arming her opponent, Kali Adesicia might not have hesitated to assert her authority. However, the first emperor, known for his wisdom, had implemented a crucial restriction to prevent irrational decisions that could endanger millions of lives or be driven by personal greed or hatred. The law enacted by the first emperor aimed to safeguard against the potential havoc caused by a madman or a tyrant ruling the empire. It stipulated that the reigning ruler could not engage in unreasonable conflicts or employ their authority as a tool for eliminating future competition or settling personal grudges. The consequences of such actions would be severe. Thus, the first emperor established the second order of hierarchy, the Heavenly Kings. To the general public and those uninformed of the empire's inner workings, the Heavenly Kings appeared as the second most powerful figures, with their true purpose concealed. In truth, their role was to serve as a check and balance against the emperor or empress. To enforce this balance, the law was enacted. If the ruler made a detrimental decision involving the saints, the 12 tribes, or the Heavenly Kings that could harm the future of the empire, the existing Heavenly Kings and Heavenly Queens had the authority to unite and eliminate the emperor or empress. Once this was accomplished, the Heavenly Kings would compete amongst themselves for the position of the next ruler, ensuring a smooth transition of power. It was almost as if the first emperor had foreseen the need for such a law. After 400 years, the second emperor became the first to fall under this law's jurisdiction. This historical precedent prevented Kali from making rash or self-serving decisions regarding Atreus' fate. Furthermore, Romulus was not just a peak 7th-stage brawler-class saint. The Heavenly King of Fire held significant influence within the imperial administration, maintained friendly ties with many of the leaders of the 12 tribes, and cultivated positive relationships with Halder and Kaida over the years. If Kali intentionally provoked Romulus, he, as a contender for the throne, could utilize the clause and align with at least the other 2 Heavenly Kings to eliminate her. Thus, the Empress found herself grappling with the limitations imposed by the laws and the power dynamics of the empire. Her role as the Empress, while conferring great authority, did not grant her unrestricted freedom to act as she pleased. The presence of Romulus and the Heavenly Kings served as a reminder of the constraints within which she operated, forcing her to consider her options carefully and strategically. These invisible chains bound Kali Adesicia, the strongest individual in the empire, preventing her from taking action against Atreus. Finally, after the air cooled down, Kali came to terms with the current predicament. She announced in front of the empire, "As you can all see, Atreus Bellator is ineligible to become the official disciple of the Fenrirborn tribe leader. Thus, I take away his claims to that position even in the future regardless of the circumstances." She openly declared. Kali's announcement resonated throughout the empire, revealing that Atreus Bellator was no longer eligible to become the official disciple of the Fenrirborn tribe leader. This declaration left a mixed reaction among the people, and not everyone was content with the decision, particularly the other 4 disciples of Romulus. Having been defeated in a 4-versus-1 battle against Atreus, these disciples held differing opinions about him but couldn't deny his earned respect as a formidable warrior. However, Many clan leaders and tribe elders of the Fenrirborn tribe displayed displeasure upon learning the truth about Atrus's origins. They felt deceived and betrayed, with some even harboring internal curses towards Romulus for keeping the truth hidden until this moment. Given Atrus's impure bloodline in relation to the Fenrirborn tribe, the clan leaders and tribe elders were resolute in their stance. They would not allow him to become the next tribe leader under any circumstances, as they considered the purity of bloodline a crucial factor in assuming such a leadership role. The revelation had shattered their previous hopes of Atrus ascending to the position of tribe leader in the event of his victory in the tribal tourney, leaving them feeling cheated and resentful. However, the Empress suddenly spoke. Like few of the previous champions of the tribal tourney in history who willingly gave up their claims to become the official disciples and instead received lands to rule and govern, I cannot allow Atrus Bellator to claim that reward. Her authoritative words resounded in the empire. It is due to the laws of our empire which emphasize on the strength of an individual and heritage, such as the bloodline they carry or their tribes, since all the shadow disciples are from the 12 true descendant tribes in the first place. Hence, Atrus Bellator is disqualified to reap that reward as well. She declared her reason. And due to his mixed blood origins and the bloodlines of God-Beast Fenrir and Basilisk at the same time, he poses a threat to muddle the ancient sacrilege of the tradition which has always decided the influential positions in the empire. Someone with both of such powerful bloodlines breaks the balance of equality in terms of opportunity for others to contend for positions such as generals and heavenly kings of the Nader Empire. She explained her reasoning again. So in simple words, Atrus was an anomaly who could not become the official disciple. But he could also not gain the benefit of a regional lord either, as it went against the old rules. On top of it, he was a mixed blood. He would not be accepted in positions of power in the imperial rule either, since it will be unfair to others. Moreover, although reluctantly, I must impose another restriction on him. Spoke the Empress in a helpless voice as if she was against her next decision. Atrus Bellator is prohibited from marrying anyone or producing any offspring. This is to maintain our traditional social structure and balance the bloodlines of the future generations, since such mixed bloodlines between the descendants of god-beasts will cause mutations in the upcoming generations, creating the cycle of pain and suffering for many lives. The Empress, enforcing her authority, issued a harsh decree that further added to Atrus's burdens. From the perspective of an ordinary commoner, it seemed that Atrus had lost the opportunity to live a happy and fulfilling life. Due to his unique origin and the specific laws of the empire designed to address such anomalies, Atrus was condemned to a life of celibacy. He would be deprived of the ability to experience love or have children in the future. The prospect of a solitary and detached existence awaited him, despite possessing the remarkable status of a fifth-stage saint, a feat that billions of people could only dream of. Atrus's life became marked by sacrifices and metaphorical chains that robbed him of the joys and fulfillment that others take for granted. The weight of his godly strength and the burden of his extraordinary bloodlines seemed to overshadow any semblance of personal happiness he could hope to attain. However, it does not change the fact that he is the rightful champion of the tribal tourney. In case the first two benefits could not be rewarded to the champion of the tribal tourney under special circumstances, spoke the Empress in a majestic tone. The reigning emperor or the Empress can grant the champion a special status or reward. She spoke in a benign tone. Did you really think you could escape from my clutches that easily? Behind the benign smile of the Empress in front of masses of the empire was a sinister and malevolent grin. I, the Empress Kali Adesisha, bestow a great honor on Atrus Bellator in front of our entire empire. From this day forth, Atrus Bellator is. The Empress did not even give Atrus or Romulus a chance to speak, and declared her decision that would trap Khan in a cage that he wouldn't be able to escape from. A member of the Heroes' Party. While Khan's fate was now dangling in the threads hanging in the hands of the Empress of the Beast Empire, a secret meeting took place in a faraway empire. In a grand hall, bathed in opulence and adorned with intricate designs, a group of saints stood in awe-inspiring splendor. The hall, with its towering ceilings and majestic archways, emanated an aura of regality and magnificence. The air was heavy with a sense of reverence and power, as if each step taken resonated with the weight of their presence. The saints, dressed in resplendent attire befitting their elevated status and warrior classes, formed a tableau of strength and grace. Their garments, embellished with shimmering threads and adorned with intricate embroidery, reflected the wealth and prestige they commanded. Each saint exuded an air of confidence, their postures tall and commanding, as they navigated the expanse of the hall. As they conversed and exchanged words, their voices carried an air of authority and wisdom. Their discussions were laced with a deep understanding of the intricacies of power and the responsibilities that came with their elevated positions. This was a meeting of an important group, a convergence of individuals with a shared purpose and a desire to deliver upon. The hall itself seemed to listen, its walls holding the echoes of their words and conferring a sense of importance upon their every utterance as they shared opinions about a great event that was coming. The hall's lavish decor further accentuated the grandeur of the gathering. Ornate chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm and golden glow upon the scene. Elaborate tapestries, depicting scenes of mythical battles and ancient legends, adorned the walls, their vibrant colors and intricate details capturing the imagination. This was a meeting of an important group, a convergence of individuals with a shared purpose and a desire to deliver upon the responsibilities that they shouldered. At the head of the table, a figure exuded an air of authority and wisdom. His voice, steady and measured, commanded attention as he laid out the purpose of their gathering. "What are we doing here, Lord Hero?" asked a second stage saint to the man seated at the center of the table, while the rest of the group was seated on the opposite sides. Before them was a man in regal yellow garbs for the battlemage class. This individual, who was of different species than the rest of the members, revealed a stern and determined countenance. "I want you all to train with me for an ambush," he declared his intentions. "Ambush who?" asked a female member of this group in a sweet and pleasant voice. "A specific individual. And out of the main objectives we have to accomplish, it will be just as important to us, to me specifically," spoke the hero. "I know many of that individual's powerful skills and battle techniques. Yet, I want all of us to be prepared for every possibility," he elaborated. But right then, a voice of disagreement echoed in the hall. "This isn't part of the imperial decree. We must report it to our supervisors and ask for their permission." A middle-aged individual who belonged to a particular species even Khan hadn't seen or heard of before made a rebuttal. "Am I to consider as insubordination?" asked the hero with a cold gaze, as if his eyes were alone enough to take this person's life. Next, a grim and domineering voice resounded in the hall. "You can all act patriotic and preach about your devotion to the empire or even blabber about the incidents of this meeting to the imperial family. However, do remember this." His voice then turned sinister and his gaze rendered all the members of the party full of worry. "Once we enter that place, all of your lives will be dependent on me to return, and I cannot guarantee someone's safety who can't even show their loyalty towards me." He spoke with a benign smile. As the words settled in the air, a heavy silence enveloped the room. The contorted expressions on their faces mirrored the weight of the information they had just received. Eyes darted nervously, brows furrowed in deep concern, and whispers of unease circulated among the gathered individuals. Glimpses of fear flickered across their eyes, betraying their inner turmoil. The magnitude of the task they had undertaken began to sink in, overshadowing the initial sense of purpose that had brought them together. Doubt crept into their hearts, casting long shadows over their resolve. As the minutes ticked by in tense silence, the weight of the hero's words settled upon the room. His subliminal threat hung in the air, casting a shadow of coercion over his loyal companions. Reluctance and apprehension painted their faces, betraying the internal struggle each person wrestled with. Gritting their teeth, they exchanged glances, searching for solace or support amongst themselves. The gravity of the situation pressed upon them, causing their resolve to waver. The hero, their trusted leader, had put forth an ultimatum that demanded their cooperation and silence, effectively binding them to his secret venture. Inwardly, they grappled with conflicting emotions. Loyalty warred with fear, and trust teetered on the precipice of doubt. Each individual weighed the consequences of compliance and the potential fallout of betrayal. The line between obedience and self-preservation blurred in their minds. With heavy hearts, one by one, they reluctantly nodded their consent. Their agreement, tinged with resignation, was a testament to the power the hero held over them. They had fought side by side, faced countless dangers together, and shared a bond forged through trials and victories. Yet now, that bond strained under the weight of the hero's insidious intentions. As the agreement settled, a smug smirk curled upon the hero's lips, betraying his true nature. He reveled in his dominance, his control over their fates. There was no attempt to hide his intentions, for he derived satisfaction from the submission he had elicited. The mask of camaraderie and heroism slipped, revealing a darker aspect of his character. The room, once filled with camaraderie and trust, now simmered with an undercurrent of unease. Consalvator, come to your death. I shall be waiting for you to arrive there as Atrus Bellator just like the last time. But this time, I will get rid of you before he or that vampire sovereign finds you. He thought with a malevolent grin. The hero's insidious intentions cast a pall over their shared mission. Doubt lingered in their hearts, mingling with a sense of unease that accompanied their acceptance of his command. This time, it will be me who ends your story. Meanwhile, in the heart of a different artificial dimension, a breathtaking natural scenery unfolded before the eyes of the mysterious group of 12 saints. Enclosed within a vast dome-like ethereal barrier, they gathered amidst an expansive open garden that bloomed with vibrant flora and cascading waterfalls while surrounded by mountain peaks. The air was pure and infused with serene energy, creating an atmosphere of tranquility. The saints, their identities concealed by voluminous robes that draped their bodies, possessed an array of physical forms and sizes. Each robe bore the distinct mark of their elemental affinity, indicating their mastery over different forces of nature. Despite their varied appearances, a sense of unity permeated the air, binding them together as an enigmatic assembly. Within their ranks, even the weakest among them boasted the impressive stature of a sixth-stage saint, a testament to their formidable prowess and overall dangerous strength that even an eighth-stage saint could not face on their own. Damn it! Everyone is laughing at us at this point. Despite having the best ways to track him, we still haven't caught him. A towering figure in the brown regal cloak slammed his fist against a nearby stone pillar, his frustration palpable. His voice boomed with a mix of anger and exasperation, echoing through the secluded meeting space. Standing at an imposing 3 meters tall, he exuded an air of authority and power. The other 11 saints in the group exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of concern. They understood the weight of their failure and the growing mockery that surrounded their pursuit. Despite possessing unparalleled tracking skills and resources, their target continued to elude them, evading capture with a maddening prowess. The Empress of my empire will have my head if I don't show any results within a month, spoke this veiled saint. Right then, a female saint in blue robes, her skin adorned with lustrous fish scales and gills adorning her neck, voiced her frustrations with a sense of urgency. Her words reverberated through the state-of-the-art meeting place, adding to the already charged atmosphere. Her voice trembled with a mixture of concern and desperation as she continued, "The Empress of the Beast Empire isn't the only one. Even our emperors and empresses have given all of us an ultimatum. None of them are pleased with our progress in finding him." The other saints in the room exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions mirroring the growing unease within their hearts. They knew all too well the weight of the consequences that awaited them should they fail. The murmurs of agreement filled the air as the other saints nodded in acknowledgement of the difficulties they faced. They were the chosen few, entrusted with the task of capturing the hero of darkness by their respective empires due to the grudges and scars that were left on their minds because of the slaughter caused by the eighth hero of darkness 300 years ago. Yet, their progress seemed to fall short of the lofty expectations set upon them. Yes, we didn't find him in the Empire of Water either. Every time we feel like we're close to catching the hero of darkness, We are left with nothing but dust at the last moment," said a fire-born saint whose fiery hair swirled and floated in the air like seaweed underwater. "Don't you all find it strange? Every time, there is always some new clue and some pivotal information that suddenly appears after we fail. And then we go to those empires following the signals given by the artifacts that were gathered by our empires during the purge of the Abyss Empire 300 years ago. And every single time we return empty-handed, and then all the artifacts each of us possesses give us all another clues and directions," spoke another individual among the group of saints. A figure stood out with distinctive features that hinted at their affiliation with the Viden Empire, the esteemed servants of the goddess of knowledge. This individual possessed 4 magnificent wings on his back, resembling those of a bird, adorned with intricate patterns of shimmering gold and soothing turquoise. Right then, another voice echoed, "We have searched through 6 empires now in the past 3 years. Yet we have nothing to show for it." His serious voice turned that either all of our tracking artifacts made by Cult of Darkborn are faulty from the beginning, said another saint in a dark gray surrounding somber in just a single sentence. "Do you all understand what that means? That either all of our tracking artifacts made by Cult of Darkborn are faulty from the beginning," said another saint in a dark gray cloak, then shared his honest insight into their current predicament. "Or someone has been messing with all of us using our reliance on these artifacts. Like a shepherd leading a herd of sheep, dictating our direction and leading us away from the real location of the Hero of Darkness," he declared. The other members of the mysterious group formed solely to hunt the Hero of Darkness had incredulous expressions. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy as the saint in the dark gray cloak voiced his concerns, cutting through the tension with his stark analysis. His words resonated with a sense of urgency and a hint of frustration. The other saints listened intently, their expressions reflecting a mixture of contemplation and apprehension. His statement brought forth 2 unsettling possibilities, both of which had grave implications. The first possibility implied a fundamental flaw in the tracking artifacts created by the Cult of Darkborn, the very tools they had relied upon to guide their search for the elusive Hero of Darkness. If this were true, it meant that their efforts thus far had been in vain, leading them astray and wasting precious time. The second possibility, however, presented an even more unsettling notion. It suggested the presence of a manipulative force deliberately misleading them, using their reliance on the artifacts as a means to divert their attention from the true location of the Hero of Darkness. This implied a level of cunning and deception that left the group feeling vulnerable and exposed. Who could it be? The Cult of Darkborn was wiped out, and no one except the Magus Patriarch of their cult could know how to alter the functions of those artifacts from this far. And that person too would need to be at least an 8th stage saint. Spoke the saintess whose beauty would even give an inferiority complex to female high elves. There is no such foolish being in the world left, and if there was someone who had sided with them despite knowing the consequences, all of our empires would have found out with our shared intelligence by now according to the pact made between the emperors. Spoke a saint veiled in yellow garbs, someone who belonged to the Empire of Time. To this declaration, a 4-meter-tall saint with 2 brown horns protruding from his forehead, long black nails on his gray-skinned arms, and dark red shoulder-length hair spoke in a skeptical tone. His physical features filled with tattoos written in kanji, reminiscent of both humans and the ancient dragon and true demon races, set him apart from the others in the room. This was a saint from the Empire of Space, the very individual who confirmed that the Hero of Darkness chose the dimensional law divine ability. I do not think we can go around pointing fingers at any of the emperors and empresses. However, I do believe we need to stop this mindless search and gather at that place instead. He proposed an idea. Are you out of your mind? It's like declaring to the world and our respective empires about how incompetent we are, exclaimed the 4-winged saint as his beak nearly became visible out of his hood. So what? By now, we know that he must need to go there. Otherwise, he would die if he didn't show up. Even with the help of the Cult of Darkborn, he cannot skip this vital custom. His very existence as the Hero of Darkness will force him to go to that place even if he didn't want to, spoke the Fireborn saint, and a glint of excited smirk appeared on his face. And this time we all will be waiting, His grim tone then resounded in this artificial realm. At the conclave of heroes, in the realm of darkness called the Eternal Abyss, amidst an ethereal atmosphere swirling with shadows and whispers, accompanied by trillions of corpses of hundreds of varying species and millions of wandering souls, an overwhelmingly tall figure that spanned for more than 50 kilometers in height while seated on a throne was revealed. This realm was the one created and ruled solely by the personification of death and darkness that existed in the world of Vantria, also called as the God of Darkness. Before him knelt a warrior clad in black and red armor with a towering figure of 12 kilometers even in the kneeling position. This was none other than the strongest being among the roster of deities, also known as the war deity Cravel. The God of Darkness, emanating an aura of power and mystery with glowing red eyes that exceeded the bloodlust and killing intent any being in Vantria could possess, looked upon Cravel, awaiting his report. "What did Moors say?" inquired the God of Darkness, his voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. Cravel, with unwavering loyalty, relayed the outcome of his encounter with Moors, the deity of slaughter. "As you expected," he declined. Cravel responded, his tone a mix of resignation and admiration for Moors' defiant spirit. The God of Darkness contemplated this response, his piercing gaze fixated on Cravel. "Yes, Moors has always been a being of chaos, unpredictable and fiercely independent," he mused. He would rather embrace death than bow down and serve another being than himself. A knowing smile tugged at the corners of the God of Darkness' lips. However, it is precisely his unpredictability that makes him predictable. He continued, his voice filled with a blend of intrigue and admiration for Moors' unique nature. Cravel nodded in understanding, his eyes reflecting a deep comprehension of God's words. Moors' inclination towards chaos and rebellion may seem contrary to expectations, but it was this very characteristic that allowed the God of Darkness to anticipate his actions to a certain extent. "Even though I went there to recruit him to our side, I found a pleasant surprise. And as you advised me beforehand, my liege, I made a few suggestions here and there," cited Cravel with a light smile under his helmet. "By suggesting that he not be told to create trouble, I inadvertently led his next course of action," revealed Cravel. "And you believe that our adamant deity of slaughter has taken the true demon subordinate created by Khan as his apostle?" he inquired, seeking confirmation. Cravel nodded, affirming the God of Darkness deduction. "Yes, my liege. It is highly likely that he has recognized the potential and strength of that particular subordinate, and thus elevated them to the position of apostle since he is bored since the past few decades." God of Darkness reveals a smirk made of his bones and teeth. Whether it's a human, a dragon, or even a deity, there is one common thread that binds them all. No one can betray their true nature. He declared a truth of the world known only to the enlightened. Those who believe they can elude their true selves, hiding behind masks of loyalty or righteousness or some higher purpose, will ultimately be exposed. Their true intentions, their darkest desires, will always come to light when no one is watching them. He stated a hard fact of the world that was true regardless of civilization or era. No matter how they may try to conceal their true nature, it will inevitably reveal itself when one feels like no one would judge them. Moors always sought chaos, and to ensure his entertainment, he ended up aiding us. Being told to not do something is the very thing that ticks him off even before he was a saint. Thus, his very nature worked in our favor. Spoke the God of Darkness in a ghastly tone even though it appeared as if he was joyful. "Velsharoon, the deity of necromancy and one of my first two servants, has chosen Cyril as his apostle, adding the forces of death and armies of undeads to our cause." The God of Darkness stated, acknowledging the strategic move made by one of his most loyal retainers even without commanding him. He continued sternly, "Brocker and Eitri, the divine blacksmiths, becomes a formidable asset with the potential to become as similar as the ones from the immemorial era who created wonders with recognizing the potential that Khan and Black will possess, have blessed both of them, bestowing upon him their gifts. With the primordial Titan bloodline and their blessings, Blackwell becomes a formidable asset with the potential to become as similar as the ones from the immemorial era who who created wonders with their knowledge and craftsmanship. A smirk played across the god of darkness's skeletal visage as he reveled in the cunning manipulation at play. The sky deity Indra, seeking a new apostle to fill the void left by the traitor who defected to the Empire of Light, found himself in need. Following your suggestion, he chose Oliver, further strengthening our side with another apostle. The god of darkness contemplated the situation, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. This makes the fourth subordinate of Khan an apostle of a deity. Added with Khan himself as apostle of war deity, there are a total of 5 apostles in his group. The god of darkness leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with sinister delight. With these many apostles aligned with our cause, each bringing their own unique strengths and powers, we have assembled a formidable force. Due to such diverse and powerful apostles by his side, Khan will no longer be without loyal forces to fight beside him as he keeps becoming stronger. These many preparations should be more than enough compared to our previous expectations, stated the god of darkness. Yes, these preparations should indeed be sufficient, affirmed Cravel, his voice laced with confidence. Now it only leaves Omega, Armin, Ronin, and the one they call Rudra. However, Ronin already has a pseudo soul. The offer of becoming an apostle might not be so lucrative for him at this point. I believe that, with his abilities, only the king of the underworld can give him any proper blessings that would enhance his innate potential. Spoke Cravel, sharing his honest opinion. Good thing Yama has always been my loyal retainer, responded God of Darkness, further planning his next objectives. I am aware, my liege. Yama and Velsharoon were the first 2 deities who pledged their allegiance to you millions of years ago. He revealed the order of the first 2 deities who pledged their never-ending loyalty to the God of Darkness. The God of Darkness's voice resonated with a mixture of caution and anticipation as he addressed the assembled saints. Yes, the wheels of fate are turning, and the deities and gods are making their moves, he acknowledged. Among them, there may be other apostles within the ranks of the other summoned heroes and heroines parties, aligning themselves with different forces of empires serving other gods. He paused for a moment, a skeletal hand reaching up to stroke his bony chin in contemplation. However, our primary concern lies with the one chosen by the goddess of knowledge, Minerva. She is known for her meticulous planning and strategic thinking. Many of her previous summoned heroes have always caused trouble, and we must be prepared for her schemes with this new one as well. Spoke God of Darkness in a grim voice. The God of Darkness's empty sockets seemed to gleam with a mixture of caution and determination. It is crucial that Khan maintains his sanity and focus amidst the trials and challenges that lie ahead. He has run afar from his supposed mission to fight the demon god for all these years while we orchestrated many things that would help him in the long term without his knowledge. He looked towards Cravel, a silent acknowledgement of the assistance they had provided to Khan thus far, even though the latter was completely oblivious about it. We have done what we can to support him, but the path ahead is treacherous. Our aid can only go so far, and ultimately, it is up to Khan to overcome the trials that await him. The God of Darkness's voice carried a sense of intrigue and confidence as he revealed their hidden strategy. And finally, if the God of Time believes just because his own chosen hero coming to the past, altering the timeline and manipulating the current events with his knowledge of the future will secure their victory, he mused, his voice filled with a hint of amusement. But little does he know that we possess our own tricks, our own plans that have been set into motion since the very day Khan was chosen as the hero of darkness. Revealed God of Darkness in a sinister voice. Khan had no idea that without him even knowing, things were already set into motion on the very day he was chosen as the hero of darkness and sent to Vantria. Without any knowledge, many ploys were implemented in the realm of gods and deities that would shape his future in the upcoming Great War. After all, the archaic formation on his back is a stated God of Darkness, hinting at their biggest ace under the sleeves that even Khan had no idea of. Transcendent Rune of Reminiscence. 10 days later, in an unknown empire was a mountain filled with lush greenery and bamboo shoots. This mountain was filled with natural waterfalls and rich wildlife. At the peak of the mountain, Surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty, stood the imposing Dobii Castle. Its grandeur and size were unparalleled, stretching for a kilometer and featuring multiple layers of intricate architecture. The castle's walls boasted a pristine white and golden color, shimmering under the sunlight and commanding attention from afar. It was a fortress that symbolized strength and protection, capable of accommodating a vast number of warriors during times of conflict. As one approached the castle, they would notice the meticulous carvings and designs adorning its structure. These engravings depicted monsters, deities, and divine beings that were unfamiliar to the inhabitants of Vantria, giving an air of mystery and enchantment to the fortress. Guarding the castle were hundreds of warriors, armed with spears and swords, positioned strategically throughout the fortress. Among them, two formidable third-stage saints stood out, their presence exuding power and authority. The warriors hailed from various backgrounds, with only a third of them being humans. The rest displayed distinct characteristics reminiscent of demons, showcasing a diverse array of skin colors, shapes, and sizes. Despite their differences in appearance, the warriors worked in harmony, their shared purpose uniting them in the defense of the fortress. The sight of humans and demons standing side by side was a testament to the diverse nature of this unknown empire and its commitment to protect the stronghold. "Step! We greet the son of the empire, the heavenly emperor!" shouted a group of royal guards as they welcomed a new arrival in this castle. In front of them stood a middle-aged 8th stage Saint Swordsman with a red and golden armor perfectly lined with his clothes. "All of you may leave. I will be talking with the ancestor alone," ordered the emperor, whose long black hair mixed with white strands came to sight. Although he seemed like a normal human, the golden aura he emanated was undoubtedly demonic. As this powerhouse, the strongest being in this empire, walked in a hidden and highly guarded room with few legendary rank formations and runes came to be. "You're here." An archaic and deep voice resonated in a grand hall of 100 meters, and the 8th stage saint, the emperor himself, quickly bowed and knelt on both of his legs. "Xing! Xing!" In front of the emperor shone a divine white light, and this condensed stature of a powerful being was revealed. A 5-meter-tall soul specter of a white-haired elderly man spoke in an authoritative tone. The grand persona, glowing in white light through its body, was dressed in a regal blue and black kamishimo, was seated on a tatami mat, his two curved swords strapped to his waist. The air carried an air of reverence as he, the emperor, displayed the utmost sense of respect for this being. It was a similar scenario when Khan first met Rathnar in Rocco's empire, since the ancient being in front of the emperor was also a remnant soul. "I pay respect to Sozin no Tenno," spoke the emperor as he finally lifted his head, revealing his vehement expression. "Ah, welcome. It's good to see you, my descendant. You came very quickly despite your busy schedule," spoke this soul specter in a kind and gentle tone. "But I told you many times to not call me that. A dead man's soul doesn't deserve such respect." He smiled lightly as his long and majestic white beard somehow signified his great wisdom and honorable personality. "My apologies, but how can I be disrespectful to my great-great-great-grandfather and the first emperor?" spoke and rebuked the emperor politely. "But why have you summoned me so suddenly? Is something amiss?" He quickly shifted the topic to the main point. With a change of his expression, the remnant soul spoke in a serious tone. "There has been a new god's decree, a divine order that demands our immediate attention," revealed the specter. In this particular empire, there were no churches, temples, or monasteries to convey their god's word. Rather, a divine saint or saintess was chosen and tasked to serve as the spokesperson of their god. But the only requirement was that this person needed to have achieved at least the 4th enlightenment in the law that represented their god. Currently, this remnant soul of once a living emperor was now taking up on that role since centuries. "I understand. What is it that needs to be done?" asked the emperor. "I have heard the command from our god. This timeline has been altered, and we must act with caution," spoke the remnant soul with a contemplative expression. "Altered? How can this be? Isn't this against the rules set by gods?" asked the emperor in a hurried tone. Changing the timeline was something that could shift the fate of the world entirely. It posed a great threat to all the empires and even the world itself if someone used it for the wrong purpose. Do you think God of Time would care about rules and broken promises even if his pride was on the line? We are on the verge of the nigh destruction of Vantria, so it is not surprising that he broke the rules if things were to go in his favor. Admonished the remnant soul to his own descendant. Seems like the current hero of time has at least come 10 years back in time. So far, our God believes that only he and the God of Darkness has figured out the changes in the branches and flow of the timeline. He explained to the Emperor. The Emperor's expression turned grim after hearing the details. 10 years of time wasn't short. Rather, one could use the knowledge of future to even cause downfall of the most powerful empires or even kill the strongest beings of such empires with proper scheming and utilizing the information from the future events. So what should be our course of action as per our God's will? Asked the Emperor hastily. Tell our representatives in that group to exercise restraint. Instruct him not to kill but aid that person if they ever find him. Commanded the ancestor. What? Who are we talking about? Asked the Emperor with a completely shocked and bewildered countenance. Our God's orders for USR. The remnant soul did not hold off the suspense and stated their God's will. Protect the hero of darkness.